Good morning, it is 7 o'clock and welcome to Mornings with Rich and Frost.
With Sophie and Wilf, good morning from me as well.
A Russian spy ship enters UK waters and shines lasers at an RAF plane tracking it. The Defence Secretary says that British forces are ready to respond.
Donald Trump gives into months of pressure, signing a bill to release the Epstein files, then goes on the attack, saying the truth about Democrats' association with Epstein will be revealed.
And it's freezing out there, and amber weather warnings in place, and up to 25 centimetres of snow is forecast to fall in parts of the country.
Also today, a behind-the-scenes account of the life and death of the notorious British tech tycoon Mike Lynch. We speak to the author, Katie Prescott, about her new book about one of the most fascinating men in the history of British business.
Plus, over half of writers say artificial intelligence will replace them. Can you spot stories written by a bot? And do you care?
Good morning. We start today with the Russian spy ship that's currently stalking the coast of Scotland and even shone lasers at RAF aircraft that were tracking it. The Defence Secretary has said the UK is exploring military options if the boat, called the Yantar, sails any closer to British shores. And John Healey had a pretty robust message to Russia. We're ready.
So this isn't the first time that this particular Russian ship has been seen in British waters. So what we're looking at right now is pictures of the Yantar, and you can also see the British Navy stalking it, effectively. That was back in 2018. But it's come back again, and the reappearance of the ship prompted this warning from the Defence Secretary.
So my message to Russia and to Putin is this. We see you, we know what you're doing, and if the Yantar travels south this week, we are ready.
Sorry about that, little freeze just there. Maybe the Russians are involved.
Yeah, we shouldn't joke.
Let's speak to our political correspondent, Rob Powell, shall we, in just a moment. But we can go live to Ivor Bennett, who's in Moscow, for us first. Ivor, what has Russia said in response to this?
Yeah, morning, Sophie. Morning, Wilf. So Russia's response is a case of there's nothing to see here. They claim the Yantar is a standard research vessel, that there's nothing dodgy about it, that it's operating in international waters, and they say that the only provocation here is coming from Britain, pointing to the Defence Secretary's comments, which part of which you heard there, where John Healey warned Russia that military options are ready. We still haven't heard from the Kremlin on this. I expect we'll get that a bit later today. Instead, the response came from the Russian embassy in London last night. It said in a statement, "The endless accusations and suspicions of the British leadership only raise a smile. The actions of our country do not affect the interests of the United Kingdom and are not aimed at undermining its security. We are not interested in British underwater communications." Britain believes otherwise, though. They believe this Yantar vessel is there surveilling Britain's undersea cables and pipelines, which carry data, electricity and gas. They are vital, of course, for an island nation like the UK. If an adversary did want to destabilise British society with a sabotage attack, that could be a point to hit, which is why the government doesn't want this Russian ship loitering off the coast.
As we said, Ivor, stick around, but because Rob's here as well. Rob, in terms of the timing of all of this, I mean, literally yesterday we were talking about this report that said we're not ready for these types of attacks, and then obviously at the same time the Defence Secretary suggesting very much otherwise and talking tough.
Yeah, there is a sort of synergy to it, isn't there? I think what makes this different, and we did see the Yantar, I think, back in January, it turned up off the southwest of the UK, and on that occasion a submarine was surfaced, essentially to sort of send the same message that John Healey was saying yesterday. You know, we see you, we know what you're up to, you didn't know that sub was there, but it's been tracking your ship, and now we're going to come up and sort of say hello to make sure that you know we're here. What's different this time, though, I think, is this use of the laser, because when it was being shadowed by a surveillance plane, the ship shined a laser towards the pilots, essentially to try and dazzle them. And what John Healey said yesterday was this is the first time they've seen the Yantar do this. MOD officials making it pretty clear that it's not usual. They haven't seen this quite a lot before. So that is the potential sort of escalation point, if you like. And there were, analysts yesterday making the point of, yes, pilots are very, very highly trained, but what would have happened if that had had an impact, if that they had lost control of the plane or something like that? It's just an indication, I guess, of how within this sort of shadow boxing situation that we're in, one kind of misstep can lead to something potentially more severe.
Ivor, can I just whilst we've got you, get another question in, which is on the story that emerged yesterday out of DC, where Steve Witkoff, the peace negotiator, envoy for President Trump, sort of retweeted an Axios report, and people were wondering whether he was trying to send a private message or rather, and accidentally put a public message out there. But the central point in the Axios report is that the US and Russia, without Ukraine, have been negotiating for potential peace deals in the background much more than perhaps we've realised. What's your take on that?
Yeah, that's the belief, isn't it, that this message was meant for Steve Witkoff, or a private message from Donald Trump that was hastily deleted. And it suggested that Steve Witkoff has been in touch with Kirill Dmitriev, who is the Kremlin's investment envoy. He's Vladimir Putin's kind of money man, but he's also kind of the opposite number to Steve Witkoff. We've seen those two pretty close whenever Steve Witkoff has come to Moscow this year, and they've always been quite close and developed this kind of back channel, as it were, where these communications have gone. And when the talks appeared to break down, or the communication between the US and Russia broke down last month, when there was that call between the foreign secretaries Sergei Lavrov and Marco Rubio, and then that summit in Budapest was called off. We did see Kirill Dmitriev fly to the US to meet with Witkoff, seemingly to try and patch things up. And so I'm not surprised that there has been more communication, but I think what's interesting is what has actually come out of this. There's these reports that they've drawn up this 28-point peace plan that is then going to be taken to Ukraine. But the reports that we're seeing, the substance of this peace plan suggests that there's nothing new, that Russia has not watered down its maximum demands here, that it still wants everything that it asked for right from the beginning, which basically amounts to Ukraine's capitulation. So if that's the case, if that's what's being presented to Kyiv, I very much doubt that they're going to sign off on this.
Really interesting stuff. Thank you very much, Ivor, there in Moscow, and also thank you to Rob here, keeping across all the politics in Westminster as well.
To the US now. Donald Trump has signed a bill to release files from the investigation into the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The US Justice Department now has 30 days to release those files, including the investigation into his death by suicide in prison.
So on the campaign trail, Trump promised his MAGA base that he would release the Epstein files, but of course, once in office, he then changed his position. He called the issue a hoax, and he also railed against calls to make those documents public. But now he has changed his mind again, and they are coming out. Sky's US correspondent David Blevins is in Washington.
Well, things have moved very quickly. Members of Congress forced a vote on the release of all files. The House backed that almost unanimously, just one vote against, and it cleared the Senate without a single objection, taking it straight to the desk of the president. 24 hours later, Donald Trump posted this on Truth Social. I have just signed the bill to release the Epstein files. At my direction, the Department of Justice has already turned over close to 50,000 pages of documents to Congress. Do not forget, the Biden administration did not turn over a single file or page related to Democrat Epstein, nor did they ever even speak about him. Democrats have used the Epstein issue, which affects them far more than the Republican Party, in order to try and distract from our amazing victories. The Department of Justice has 30 days to comply, and we now know what it is mandated to hand over. All files related to Jeffrey Epstein and to his girlfriend Ghislaine Maxwell. Flight logs and travel details. All files related to individuals, including government officials. Related to entities with any known or alleged links to Epstein's trafficking or financial networks, any immunity deals, internal Department of Justice communications, all communication regarding the destruction or concealment of files, and all documentation related to Epstein's death and the cause of it. In a statement, the family of Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's victims who died by suicide this year, said, "This moment is nothing short of monumental for Virginia, for her survivor sisters. This work is not finished. Every name must be revealed, regardless of power, wealth, or party affiliation." President Trump has now commissioned an investigation into Epstein's links with Democrats. But prosecutors tend not to hand over files when there is an active investigation, and that's fueling concerns that some of the material could be withheld or redacted.
David Blevins there for us. Now, we don't need to tell you, but winter has arrived this week. It's freezing out there, and we've had lots of snow across the UK overnight to show for it as well.
Looking promising, though, for snowman builders, with as much as 25 centimetres of powder predicted to settle on high ground, at least, surrounding the North York moors. Let's have a look at some of the pictures you've sent us. We sought them yesterday as the snow started to fall, and you've stepped up to play. Wow!
It looks like the North Pole, but it isn't. It's Aviemore, which is a town in the Cairngorms National Park in the Scottish Highlands. That is...
Who sent us that? Respect.
That's beautiful. That's genuinely beautiful.
That does look like a scene out of, Game of Thrones, Winter is Coming.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
That's properly shot. It's like from HBO. Wow, unbelievable.
Yeah, and also Take Care on the Roads as well as showing.
I'm not sure. I'm grateful to all of our viewers. I'm not sure they're going to top that. But let's have a look what's next. This is Hexham Racecourse in Northumberland, where racing had to be abandoned due to snowfall. In fact, we're going to be speaking to the racecourse manager later this morning, so that's obviously highlighting how it can be a hindrance as well.
And this is Woking. So this is John in Woking, who got a real taste of the snow excitement with a little flurry in his garden. And John said, as Sophie mentioned, sending pics and videos of the snow, I looked up and this is what you're seeing in Woking. It's starting to look like Christmas. So email your pictures, I should say as well. Any snow pictures you got, mornings@sky.uk.
I feel like that one needs the soundtrack of that song. It's beginning to look like Christmas.
Oh, my goodness me.
You're saying, was that Please Keep Going?
I know, it was gorgeous. It was really lovely, Wilf. What voice?
I am tone deaf. But you're still going to have to endure that sort of thing probably about once a month. I'll try and keep it to that.
OK, looking forward to that one. Let's bring you the latest weather warnings as well, because, look, there is a serious point to the story too. The Met Office is saying that all of the UK needs to be rugging up. There is yellow warnings stretching from Northern Ireland, North Scotland, the east and southwest of England, and also across South Wales too. It's the first notable cold snap of the season. Sorry, I realised I started reading your script.
That's all right, keep going.
Meteorologists are predicting some areas might experience blizzards. Temperatures could drop to -10 degrees in parts of Scotland tonight. Pretty cold, where between 15 and 20 centimetres of snow could fall.
The Met Office has issued the alert for snow covering the Yorkshire coast from Middlesbrough to Bridlington. It's warned that frequent wintry showers will feed inland from the North Sea, giving significant snow accumulations over the North York moors and parts of the Yorkshire wolds. By the end of Thursday, as much as 15 to 25 centimetres may have accumulated on hills above 100 metres elevation, which is likely to cause substantial disruption. Gusty winds giving occasional blizzard conditions, and perhaps a few lightning strikes may accompany some of the showers, posing as additional hazards. Let's bring in Shingi Mariki, who is covering and shivering through the snow for us this morning. Shingi, very good morning to you. Whereabouts are you? It's looking like there's been quite a lot of snowfall where you are.
Yeah, good morning, Wilf. I'm in Pickering, which is just outside the North York Moors National Park, and we haven't quite got the covering that you were talking about there in the Cairngorms, but it has snowed overnight. We're in the pocket of the country where there is that amber weather warning for snow. That's in place until 9 p.m, and that could bring with it disruption in the form of issues on the rail network as well as on the roads. And over the course of the morning, it has been fairly busy. People have been driving back towards Yorkshire or towards the North York Moors National Park, but what happens most of the time we have concerted cold snaps here in North Yorkshire is there's a strong, substantial gritting operation. We've seen gritters out this morning heading out into town and in other directions. We've also seen people driving back towards Yorkshire, and lots of the emergency services heading in that direction as well. But the advice from North Yorkshire Police, I think, will probably apply to people all over the country, which is if you are travelling, there could be disruption, so make sure that you take care.
Thank you very much indeed. Go and get warm. I hope they've got like a mug of something hot somewhere not too far from where you are at Shingate Mariki there in North Yorkshire. We've got one more picture that we do want to show you because it's pretty cute. This is Dolly the dog posing in front of the Penshaw Monument near Sunderland. And look at that little smattering of snow on Dolly's head. Super cute.
Super cute. I've never seen that monument before, have you?
No, I haven't.
Looks like it's Greece.
Lovely picture there. Email your snow pictures into us. And in the middle of the flurry now, these pictures are also live from Bridlington Bay boat ramp in East Yorkshire, so you can really get a sense of the kind of morning that people are waking up to across the country.
Keep them coming in. More on the weather next hour. But to Gaza now, and Sky News has witnessed firsthand the devastation caused by months of relentless bombardment. Israel does not allow news organisations to report independently from Gaza, but yesterday took a group of journalists, including Sky News, into the area of the Strip occupied by Israeli forces.
So the pretty brief visit was highly controlled. It didn't offer access to Palestinians or other areas of Gaza. And the military censorship laws in Israel mean that military personnel were shown all of our material before publication. So important to say exactly the circumstances that we were operating in, although Sky News did maintain editorial control of this report at all times. This is Adam Parsons.
Well, earlier this week, the United Nations agreed a resolution to back Donald Trump's 20-point peace plan for Gaza. And that plan was fueled by optimism for the future. But the problem is, reality bites when you come here and look at that. That is what's left of the outskirts of a place called Shujaiya near Gaza City. It is a landscape of complete and utter devastation. It's very hard to see a single building that hasn't either been destroyed or blown up. And there are no civilians, no signs of life here. The Israeli military has brought us to this base, but they tell us what we can film, where we can go. So, for instance, I can film that, but I can't film a military base over there. And the other thing is that we're not allowed to talk to any civilians. Now, they are only a few hundred meters in that direction. There is a large red and white mast over there in the distance, and that is the marker for the so-called yellow line, which now divides Gaza into two. We're on the side that is controlled by Israel. Over on that side, it is Hamas and other clans who are in control. But there's hardly anybody living on this side. It is predominantly the military. Most of Gaza's 2 million population, the vast majority, are on the other side. The stabilization force that was agreed to by the UN still has a very vague remit. And right now it's not clear whether or not they will go on to that far side where Hamas and other groups are still roaming. So this peace plan does bring optimism, but there are so many unanswered questions about the rebuilding of this, about the money that will be needed, about that stabilization force, and about Hamas. The deal says they have to disarm, but will they? And if they don't, who's going to make them?
Adam Parsons there for us, and Adam's going to join us live next hour with more on what he witnessed there firsthand in Gaza.
Now, an awful lot to talk to the government about today, not least, of course, that Russian spy ship currently stalking the coast of Scotland. But our next guest is someone who's Children and Families Minister, and I have to say there is an awful lot of really important stuff that I want to get to on that as well. Breakfast clubs, are they working? What kind of food are children getting in them? And also, of course, the long-running look at what's happening to kids in care, our most vulnerable kids that we've been doing a lot of work on the programme as well. So our next guest, Josh McAllister, Children and Families Minister. Good to have you on the programme today. Lots of people waking up this morning are going to be thinking, what on earth is going on with this Russian spy ship that's been shining lasers at RAF pilots? It's been carrying out some kind of activity in British waters. What can you tell them?
The Defence Secretary yesterday was really clear about the situation. As we see it, we've been monitoring this Russian vessel over many months. European allies, NATO allies are fully aware of the situation as well and have been tracking it. The situation with the Russian government is that we've said we're keeping an eye on this vessel. If it goes south, then we will be taking action. So,
what kind of action is that, though? Because we're not going to start, firing on a Russian ship, are we? That would be like a massive escalation.
We're not setting out any of the detail for the understandable reasons that we don't want to give the Russian government any indication of what that action may be, but it really underscores the fact that protecting the UK in very turbulent times is increasingly important. That's why it's so essential that we get to increase defence spending. And yesterday, we announced the sites for the first wave of new munitions factories in the UK. That's important for our industrial policy because it creates jobs and resilience in the UK, but it's also really important for making sure we've got the ability to defend ourselves into the future.
On Russia, we're obviously looking at this all through the lens of what's going on in Ukraine as well, and there's been a lot of talk in the last day or so about a potential deal that's been talked about with the US and Russia, but it would involve Ukraine giving up territory that it currently holds. Now, look, I know you're the kind of children and families minister. You're not going to be across what Witkoff is talking about or whatever, but would that ever be acceptable to the UK government, Ukraine giving up land that it currently holds?
So the UK government position on this, both under our government and the previous government, is really clear that Ukraine absolutely needs to be in these negotiations at the table as an active participant player.
They're not.
Well, they need to be. And any decision needs to be made with Ukraine in the room. And that is the UK government position. We've used our foreign policy activity, our relationships with the US to make that point. We'll continue.
Doesn't sound like it's had much of a use, though, has it? I mean, I guess it just shows how we're not in the room either.
I think as you follow this story, it takes lots of twists and turns, as happens with the US administration sometimes. Look at the big arc of this, which is that Trump has actively engaged with the Ukraine question increasingly, which is welcome. And the relationship with Zelensky and the Ukrainian government has improved. That's welcome. We need to make sure Ukraine is at the table.
Right, you're here to talk about free breakfast clubs for children at school. So basically, parents can drop their kids off before work, they can have breakfast with their mates, and they go into school. So I think I'm right in saying the funding for this is £1 per child, which doesn't sound very much, I'll be honest. Like, what kind of thing are they getting?
The most popular thing for children at breakfast clubs are cereals and porridge. We've done lots of surveys about these things, and children are really keen on getting things like that. We've done lots with this policy to get it right. So the first wave of free breakfast clubs was rolled out. We did that in a test and learn way at 750 schools. It's been really well received, both by parents, by pupils, and by teachers. We've learned through that process. So what we're announcing today is the next wave of those breakfast clubs. We're increasing the amount of money that's going to schools by about 28% on average, so it's going up quite a bit. The £1 figure isn't the total funding for breakfast clubs. There's also funding for the school on top of that. And we've struck partnerships with businesses like Weetabix, with Morrison's, with Magic Breakfast to actually lower the unit cost of some of the things that schools will be taking on board. And basically, this is an affordability measure to make sure that parents get a bit of extra help at the start of the school day, and it takes obviously some of the financial pressure off parents as well.
Can I ask about school meals more widely? Because there's a policy at the minute, so if you're in primary school, you get free school lunches as well. And I think I'm right in saying that the cost for that is £2.61 per child nationally, a little bit more in London, but £2.61 a child nationally. Now, my experience is that school lunches are pretty bad, I'll be honest. There's not much of it, so the kids are still hungry afterwards. The quality is not great, it's not very nutritious. I just wonder, is there an argument to not make it free for everyone, to say that actually, to say that those who can afford for it should pay for it, and then a bit more money can be spent in actually making them better?
Yeah, look, we want to make sure school meals are nutritious for all children, primary and secondary. We're doing lots, actually, to bolster and improve the school meals system overall, if you think about it in that way.
Do you accept that they're just not good enough at the minute?
No, I don't think that is the case everywhere, actually.
But in some places?
I think in some cases it won't be good enough. We are extending free school meals from September next year to a further 100,000 children, which will make a massive difference, not just for learning and attainment, but also for child poverty, which will be a big measure to tackle that. But this policy for primary schools is about taking some of the pressure off parents at the start of the school day. It's also really important for attendance, because we know that if you put a breakfast club in place, children show up a bit earlier, they've got a bit of time together to socialise before the school day kicks off.
Now, this is something I was really keen to talk to you about today, because on this programme, since it's launched, we've done a lot on kids in care, because actually the statistics are, frankly, appalling, right? You know, you're more likely to die before the age of 25 if you went to care, you're more likely to go to prison, you're less likely to do well at school, all of these things, right? And I was interested to talk to you in particular about it, not just because of your role, but because I know that before you went to Parliament, you actually did quite a lot of work in this area. And I just wondered if you've got anything to say about what the government is going to be doing, or like how bad the situation is, you know, for these kids.
Yeah. I'm really pleased you're asking about this. It doesn't get enough attention, so I'll hog the mic for as long as I can. Basically, you know, we're in a situation where not just children in care, but also children who are still living with their families where there's some concerns, or families that are really struggling with addiction issues or mental health problems. That whole system has been so off kilter for so long, and getting worse in the sense that more money spent on late stage crisis intervention and not enough help's there for families early. So the big things that we're doing are making sure the funding is available to reset the system, which is the big thing that I called for in my review. So big amounts of money to help services actually put wraparound support to families when they need it. More decisive child protection, so that when there are concerns, we move quicker and we're really focused on those concerns. And then for children in care, and this is the big shift that we need, it's not just about all the service stuff that we can do, because sometimes that does let children down.
Yeah.
It's making sure that if you've been removed from your family, the care system is able to create lifelong loving relationships around you, and that's the bit that's missing.
You're a former teacher. Why did you start looking at kids in care in particular? I guess, did you see it in your
Because,
job?
yeah, I was teaching in classrooms in Greater Manchester and working, particularly in the first school that I taught in Oldham, with children who I was responsible for them as their form tutor, but what was going on for them outside the school gate had a much bigger effect on how they did in the classroom than anything I could do.
And what kind of thing was that?
Well, you know, domestic abuse between parents, drug issues, and then you'd see that social workers would try and come in and help, but the social work system had social workers coming and going. It was very bureaucratic. The kids didn't know who their social workers were. And so I set up a charity to get thousands of new great people into social work, and then did this big review.
Some of the people we've been talking about have said that care should be a protected characteristic, like a disability, which would unlock extra help. Is that something that you think is a good idea?
So I called for that in my review. I've got a slightly different position now that I'm a government minister.
Oh, yeah, because you've got to toe the line now. That's why, isn't it? No, I understand. I see why you changed your mind.
I got to work in a team where there's loads of different competing pressures, right? So we've got to get change to happen really quickly for this group of young people.
Tell me secretly, Number 10 won't be watching, it'll be fine.
Well, the thing I can tell you secretly is that we are extending corporate parenting. So at the moment, only local authorities have got that duty as a corporate parent to these young people. We're extending it to lots of other public services, which will make a big difference.
Thank you very much indeed, Josh McAllister, speaking to us now.
Let's turn now to a story we touched on yesterday, and that's the first ever men's health strategy for England, which the government has now unveiled the details of.
So the Prime Minister has also taken the pretty unusual step of sharing with us, via video, a letter that he wrote to his own son about the challenges facing young men.
I do know it's not easy growing up in this day and age. I know there are pressures on young men that are difficult to talk about, and questions that, frankly, are difficult to answer. Questions about mental health, masculinity, social media. I remember when we watched Adolescent together, and as a dad, I was tough to see at times. But if there's one hope I have, It's that we keep talking, keep learning from each other.
Let's take a closer look at some of the health issues which have been raised as part of the government strategy. Men, on average, live nearly 4 years fewer than women, and suicide remains one of the leading causes of death for men under 50.
We look at physical health as well. I'd say more than 2/3 of liver disease deaths are in men, and respiratory disease is the third leading cause of premature death in England, and men, again, are more likely to suffer from that.
Moreover, prostate cancer is the second most common cancer.
It's such a huge issue, isn't it? It feels to me like, quite rightly, we've been talking a lot about women's health issues in the last few years, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. I think it's a really, really good thing. But actually, if you look at some of that data, we need to be having the same conversations around men's health.
Definitely. I mean, I think the biggest one for me is on the suicide rates, which are so starkly different based on gender, because I think that is really something that talking about it can address in a way that, if you're talking, not that we shouldn't be addressing cancer differentials and longevity of age and age expectation, but if we're talking about suicide, it is talking about it that's the solution.
Yeah, that's completely right, and something that we're keen to try and do on this programme too.
We're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about a new book that explores the extraordinary life that was cut short a summer or so ago of Mike Lynch, the tech billionaire who went down on his yacht. We'll be right back.
A killing on a stag do on a Greek party island. Sky News investigates.
The sound that I heard will never leave me.
The two assailants walk off at first and then run off up the street.
People are walking free for 6 years that have done this. That doesn't make any sense.
Whoever that person is, was a big problem that night.
Even though police had a video showing them exactly what happened, we will reveal how they made the simplest of blunders. Is that you? Is that you?
We are under Israeli military restrictions in terms of some of the things that we can film, but it's important to be in there. What a slow drive for the president as he approaches his golf club. 4 more years! Free wherever you get your news. I'm Mark Stone and I'm Sky's correspondent based here in Washington, D.C.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Mornings with Ridge and Frost. Your headlines. The Defence Secretary John Healey says the UK is exploring its military options if a Russian spy ship sails closer to the UK. For the second time this year, the Yantar is in British waters, currently off the coast of North Scotland, and has been closely monitored by the Royal Navy.
Donald Trump has signed a bill forcing the release of files relating to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. So the president initially resisted calls for the release, but then bowed to pressure from his own party. And the US Justice Department now has 30 days to produce all of the information.
Parts of the UK could see 25 centimetres of snow as blizzard conditions continue. Amber weather warnings are in place for parts of Yorkshire, while coastal areas are being told to look out for snow and ice. Now, we're sure you'll remember hearing about the super yacht called the Bayesian, which sank off the coast of Sicily last summer. It was a huge story at the time, but let's just remind you how things unfolded.
So the tech tycoon Mike Lynch had gathered his family and friends for a holiday on his luxury boats. But then in the early hours of the morning on the 19th of August 2024, the yacht was caught up in a storm. And authorities say it was likely that a huge gust of wind toppled the boat. It capsized and sunk in just minutes.
7 people died that day, including Mr. Lynch and his 18-year-old daughter, Hannah.
And now, of course, it's back in the headlines because an American firm is seeking £1.35 billion from Mike Lynch's estate. But I guess the question is why?
Because Mike Lynch had set up a software company, Autonomy, back in 1996. In 2011, Hewlett-Packard, HP, bought the company for $11.1 billion. A year later, HP reduced Autonomy's value by $8.8 billion. They claimed Lynch and his chief financial officer, Siobhan Hussain, previously inflated the company's financial performance artificially. It triggered a long civil trial in the UK High Court from 2015 to 2022. Lynch and Hussain were found liable for fraud and inflating Autonomy's value in that UK civil case. From 2018 to 2024, Lynch was extradited to the US to face criminal fraud charges. He was then acquitted in June 2024. And it was just 2 months later that he died in that yachting accident off the coast of Sicily, along with his daughter and others. Hours earlier, his co-defendant in the US case, Autonomy's accountant Stephen Chamberlain, was killed in Cambridge in a separate road incident. Now, to November this year, and HP is continuing to pursue Lynch's estate in the UK for £1.3 billion, far above the original estimate of £500 million of his total wealth. Much of the family's assets are reportedly held under his wife's name. That's the background for you. Let's talk about it all now with Katie Prescott, who's the technology business editor at The Times and also the author of The Curious Case of Mike Lynch, her new book that's out now. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning.
It is a fascinating story, this, and it's captured so much attention and obviously an absolutely tragic story as well. My first question on this is, we set out some of the details there. So he lost a civil case here, but didn't face a criminal case, but then won a criminal case in the US. In your assessment, how is there that gap in those two types of cases in two different jurisdictions?
It is incredibly complex. And I should say there were always questions around Autonomy's numbers in the run-up to the sale to HP. As you say, they bought it in 2011 after 18 days of due diligence. That's not a lot of time to look over a company's books, and then fired him and accused him and Siobhan Hussain of fraud a year later. The civil trial in the UK was overseen by a chancery judge, so an expert in accounting matters, who took 2 years to come to the conclusion that HP was right and that there was fraud at Autonomy. And he went through it transaction by transaction in this very, very detailed judgment. Siobhan Hussain was then sent to prison in America following a criminal trial. And the question is, as you say, under this same judge, who oversaw the jury trial that sentenced Saddam Hussein to prison, why was Mike Lynch acquitted? And lawyers I speak to say this is the difference between a criminal trial where you need to find a verdict beyond reasonable doubt and a civil trial where something's on the balance of probabilities, but also a jury trial where you've got people who aren't experts in software accounting. One of the jurors actually fell asleep at the start of the trial. And then you've got Mike Lynch's lawyers who'd also been through 2 massive cases by this point. They'd seen, it was a little bit like Groundhog Day, that third trial. They'd seen all the witnesses before, and so they also had that experience to draw on.
It's really interesting that you raised that point, how quickly HP bought the company in the first place, and also that there were questions out there amongst the analyst community in London already. Is there any argument to suggest that this is someone comes along, makes us a massive offer, more than even we thought the company was worth, we're going to say yes and keep quiet? Or is that a very generous interpretation of what happened?
So the judges on both sides of the Atlantic said that caveat emptor or buyer beware was not an excuse for the numbers not being correct. It's really interesting, though. Microsoft actually made a very similar purchase of a similar company that was also found to have accounting errors at around the same time and rather swept it under the carpet. The CEO was fired and they moved on. And one of the very curious things about this story is how harshly HP has pursued the management of autonomy over this event. Although I should say they very much feel they've got a duty to their shareholders to see this case through, and their shareholders sued them at the time over the purchase of autonomy.
On that very point, I mean, we've been reminded of that clear focus HP have with the settlement they're seeking and now been awarded, which falls on his widow.
His estate, yeah. So this case has moved at a glacial pace. The trial happened in 2019. It was only earlier this year that the judge decided how much HP should be awarded, which was £700 million. Now the lawyers are in court this week looking at what the final figure should be, and HP say they need interest on that number, which pushes it well into the billion mark. And obviously that raises questions then about where that money might come from.
Because it's more than people
because it's way
think
more
he was worth. What about his death? There was lots of questions, extraordinary timing, I guess, so soon after he was acquitted. Are there questions that needed to be answered, or what was your findings?
Something I really wanted to interrogate, because there were so many conspiracy theories about this. 2 co-defendants dying on the same weekend. And I should say it was the weekend of the 18th of August, which was the date that HP bought autonomy. So there are all sorts of things that people were coming up with around this. There's been an inquest into Stephen Chamberlain's death. It was found to be accidental. The lady who was driving, who hit him while he was out running in Cambridge, just stopped. And so there's really no suggestion, and certainly amongst his family and friends, that it was anything other than a horrible accident. We've only had the preliminary report into what happened of the sinking of the Bayesian, but it seems that very much that too was just a horrible accident. And so this just appears to be a very nasty coincidence. And I've tried to interrogate this with contacts at the Times who speak to the security services, and I really haven't found anything, I'm afraid.
And where do you conclude on Mike Lynch? Because he built an incredibly successful company.
Yeah.
Whether its success was exaggerated, fraudulently, as of course the civil case here suggested, concluded, or not. And he helped build a number of other very big successful companies. Darktrace, one of the UK's most successful, I think, tech companies in the last few decades, a cybersecurity firm. He was a big architect behind. What's your conclusion of him as a business leader?
It's very difficult in my job covering tech in Britain not to come across a Mike Lynch company or someone who has done very well out of working for one of his businesses. So he did leave this extraordinary legacy. Controversial, yes, he was a hard-charging, aggressive person. He made enemies throughout his life, but he also created these extraordinary companies. And you mentioned Darktrace, that was sold to billions for billions last year. He also created a business called Featurespace, early financial AI, and Luminance, which was a legal AI company before AI was really cool. So he has left an extraordinary business legacy in the UK, albeit, as I say, a controversial one.
Really fascinating conversation. Katie, thanks so much for joining us. And the book is out now, The Curious Case of Mike Lynch.
Yeah, it came out last week. Thank you.
Congratulations on it, Katie. Thanks so much.
A fascinating interview. I remember covering the story, actually. I was doing some presenting shifts when it broke over the summer, and the first reports just coming through about a boat being in difficulty and then the boat going down and then the realisation about this guy who was on board and the backstory is just extraordinary.
Well, and literally just a month earlier, we'd all been covering that he'd been acquitted against all expectation from that criminal trial in the US. So, yeah, it was extraordinary when it all unfolded. We've got lots more still to come. And coming up, we're going to be talking about the fears that authors in particular have over AI taking over. We'll be right back.
Eastern Libya is the new doorway to Europe for people being smuggled from Africa and Asia.
We are close to Greece. You can see it.
We've obtained unprecedented access to the authorities.
Do you feel you're just scratching the surface?
We've been on the raids, out with the Coast Guard,
Absolutely desperate.
and inside the detention centres.
How did you cope with that?
To find what's pushing people to Europe and what's driving the authorities here to stop them.
Mayhem in the Middle East, rippling in America's West.
Get back! Get back!
The resolve of these protesters is now being seriously tested. I saw police being forced or pushing young men and women to the ground as they made almost 100 arrests.
None of this is a peaceful protest.
I'm Martha Kellner and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Los Angeles. How are you feeling?
I am angry. It is an anti-woman agenda.
Will the cold affect your voters?
Well, we have a lot of tremendous support, but it's nasty out there.
Anybody else?
Should the Defence Secretary and the Vice...
Wait, what country are you
from? The UK?
Okay, we don't give a crap about your opinion and your reporting. Why don't you go back to your country where you have a major migrant problem?
President Biden, do you trust President Xi? President Biden says that this meeting went well. He said real progress was made on a whole host of issues. Will your candidates win?
I hope so. I think they will. I think they're great candidates.
There's no doubt that Kamala Harris and her team are harnessing the power of social media. Do you think Kamala is brat?
Kamala's brat.
Are you scared?
Yeah, we were scared. It was terrible. Strong wind, building tearing down.
As them say, God works, so we can't do nothing.
The people here know that worse storms may well be on their way. Sky News, get the full story first. Free wherever you get your news. Ghislaine Maxwell has pleaded not guilty to all 6 charges against her. Mum, how are you feeling today?
Jeffrey said, you answer to Ghislaine, you just don't cross her.
I'm Stephen Murphy, and I'm Sky's Ireland correspondent based here in Dublin. The waters of Ireland and Britain should be home to great white sharks. If there are great white sharks in this area, there's no reason they wouldn't come here to feed. It's basically a buffet on a beach. This could be not only a record-breaking storm, but potentially the most dangerous storm ever to hit Ireland.
Welcome back. Now, the way that AI could change jobs is a real worry for lots of people, all of us, to be honest, but particularly perhaps those in the creative industries, and that includes authors. Around half of British writers think they're going to be completely replaced by AI.
That's according to research from Cambridge University, which also found more than a third of writers say artificial intelligence is already taking work from them, therefore hitting their incomes.
We can bring in now Clementine Collette, who conducted the research. She is a researcher at Cambridge University. She's also a novelist herself as well. I find this deeply troubling, I'll be honest. As somebody who believes in the power of books, in the fact that they make us empathise, the fact that they teach us about the world, the fact that they make us get into the mind of somebody else so we understand where they're coming from, all these things. And how real do you think these fears are about AI?
Yes, well, it's a great point that you've made. I mean, novels do so much for us in so many ways. Firstly, they're such a kind of bedrock of the creative industries. They're the base of so many films, TV shows, musical soundtracks, and the creative industries brings in 126 billion to our economy every year. So there's that, plus, you know, on top of that, and more so, they bring so much joy and entertainment to our lives and our well-being. So, you know, I think these fears really need to be taken seriously by the government, and we need to put guardrails around AI to ensure that we protect the novel and our creative industries, more broadly speaking.
It's really interesting because obviously 6 months or so ago, when Peter Kyle was still tech secretary, it was suggested that we were going to take a relatively soft approach in legislation towards AI and have this so-called default position that your IP would only be protected from AI if you explicitly said you wanted it to be, which I think there was a big pushback from the creative industries on. Where are we in that process now? Because that approach has gone away, seemingly, but we don't know what the government's new approach will be?
No, we don't know what the government will say around the copyright and artificial intelligence consultation.
So this is basically about AI companies kind of stealing work, effectively, or using it to train models or republishing it. That's what we're talking about.
Absolutely. And in the survey, I found that almost 2/3 of novelists say that they know, so 59% know that their work has been used to train AI models without remuneration, without permission. And, you know, that's really important for them to be able to give that permission, that consent, and to be remunerated for the use of their work. And relaxing copyright law, as was suggested in the consultation, with an opt-out model where you have to explicitly say you don't want your work to be used, will only further harm these creatives.
I guess the key point on this, that's for laws going forward. Most people's assumption, I'm interested what your take on this is that in order for these AI models, of which there now are many, to be so advanced as they are, that they could only have got to this point to have been trained on this work anyway. And I guess no one's even asking that question. How do you pay for the kind of training and lifting, perhaps, of copyright that's already been done?
Yes, absolutely. This is a major concern for novelists, is that they want historical recompense for the work that's already been used to train these models, which has already been, you know, put into these systems to make them as sophisticated as they are. And a big question as well is we don't know how sophisticated they will become. So we were talking a bit about genre fiction versus literary fiction. At the moment, people think genre fiction might be more at risk.
What's genre fiction?
So things like romance, thrillers, crime, things that people might say are slightly more formulaic in their writing, versus literary fiction, so something that might win the Booker Prize.
And by the way, she's. I think it's important to say Clementine's not saying formulaic in a bad way, because she's a romance author.
I am,
herself,
exactly.
So she's on the side of genre fiction. I think what a lot of people would say is that the great novelists and the great writers have got something very special. It's human creativity, something that a computer can never really emulate. But I just wonder if that's true. Like, if you look at how much better AI models have got, like even over the last kind of year or couple of years, I guess you can't rely on that.
Yeah, well, the sophistication of the models are definitely increasing rapidly. But, you know, I do really strongly believe that we as humans have something really special and we're able to kind of create in ways that AI will never be able to create. But having said that, the way that it's changing our preferences around what kind of consumption we're doing, you know, moving us towards this kind of short-form consumption rather than maybe long-form consumption.
Exactly, because there's wider issues, right, about people just not reading novels anymore. And I'm the kind of person who I love a Victorian doorstepper, so I'm kind of I'm well in on this. But I can, you know, you do see it. Like we're much more used to, like you say, to kind of short form content.
Absolutely.
So novel reading in general is under threat.
Yeah, I think it was 1 in 3 children between the age of 8 to 18 say that they enjoy reading for pleasure.
How many? Sorry,
1 in 3. So it's low.
Yeah.
And, you know, reading is dropping off a cliff, and it's so important for our development in terms of empathising with other people, as you said at the beginning, our education and, you know, our joy and entertainment, well-being.
Really, really interesting stuff. Thank you.
Thanks
very
so
much.
We've got a bit of an opportunity here, I think, as well, to get this regulation right.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the EU has gone for that opt-out model, so they're not really, which is kind of slightly rare for the EU. Usually they over-regulate big tech.
Yeah.
They've kind of not protected the content creators as much as perhaps now might be the case here. Obviously, we don't know what the government's thinking, but also, again, the US is going through a similar process, but we have an opportunity to kind of get that balance right.
Yeah, and it's a balance, like you say, right? Because this technology is here. I mean, I use it. I'm sure you use it. You know, it's in our lives. You can't stop it. But then it is about getting the regulation and the protections right around it.
What do you use it for?
He's setting me up here because he knows what I use it for.
I know, but it's
I outsource quite a lot of decision making. You know, like to it. Like, what should I cook for dinner, stuff like that. You know. I'm going to this place on holiday, where should I go? You know, I use it for quite a lot of that, which maybe is bad because it kind of like, you know, losing your critical
No, I think
thinking.
it saves time when you've got to get up.
Yeah.
Now, what is your favourite dad joke? Well, MPs are going to tell dad jokes in the comments, like Christmas come early. Tell dad jokes in the comments today to highlight paternity leave concerns, which they say is the worst dad joke of the lot.
So we need to, we've got to rattle through some of these. So the Lib Dem MP for Henley and Tame, Freddie Van Mierlo, is expected to tell the Commons, I used to hate facial hair, but then it grew on me. Sure, not my finest joke, but nowhere near as bad as the joke played on over 500,000 dads each year, paternity leave of just 2 weeks on less than half the minimum wage, and with nothing for the self-employed.
So please do brighten up your our Thursday morning and your Thursday morning. Send us in your best dad jokes. We'll be looking out for them.
Mornings at sky.uk, mornings at sky.uk, or find us on social media as well.
I've been Googling this morning. Do you want a couple?
Will, this is Will's moment of...
I've been laughing.
He's been waiting up for this
I'm not
all
very
day.
well prepped for any of the interviews to come, but I'm well prepped for this. OK, last night, my wife and I watched 3 films back to back. Luckily, I was the one facing the TV. OK, what's the advantage of living in Switzerland? Well, the flag is a big plus.
I quite like that one. That's quite good. That's quite good.
Oh, brilliant.
Go on,
I went to
you've got
a
time for
wedding.
another one.
I went to a wedding of 2 satellites. The ceremony wasn't much, but the reception was incredible.
Oh, it's going downhill now. It's going. Can I just apologise for you turn on Sky.
I'm not apologising.
Think it's a serious news programme,
That
and you're hit with this.
is quality humour, and more to come next hour.
What might happen if Russia attacked the UK?
This is clearly an enormous show of force.
It is definitely out of the ordinary.
We ran a war game with former ministers back in the hot seat.
Ben Wallace.
Amber Rudd.
Jack Straw.
It's the kind of war game that's genuinely tested inside government.
The Russians are signalling that there may be an attack.
Russia knows our weaknesses, but do you? I'm Deborah Haynes. From Sky News and Tortoise, this is The War Game. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning to you. It's 8 o'clock. Welcome to Mornings with Ridge and Frost.
With Sophy and Wilf. Good morning from me as well. Lots ahead today.
A Russian spy ship enters UK waters and shines lasers at an RAF plane tracking it. The Defence Secretary says British forces are ready to respond.
Donald Trump gives in to months of pressure, signing a bill to release the Epstein files. Then he goes on the attack, saying the truth about the Democrats' associations with Epstein will also be revealed.
And it's freezing out there. An amber weather warning in place with up to 25 centimetres of snow forecast to fall in parts of the country.
Also ahead, we'll talk to the doctor tackling adolescents' obesity with weight loss jabs.
Plus, over half of writers say artificial intelligence will replace them. Can you spot stories written by a bot versus by our team, and do you care?
Hello, welcome back. Now, we start today with the Russian spy ship that is currently stalking the coast of Scotland and even shone lasers at RAF aircraft that were tracking it. So the Defence Secretary has said the UK is exploring military options if the boat, called the Yantar, sails any closer to British shores. John Healey had a pretty robust message to Russia. We are ready.
And it's not the first time the Russian vessel's been in British waters. What we're looking at here are pictures of the ship being stalked by the British Navy in 2018. The reappearance of the ship prompted this warning from John Healey.
So my message to Russia and to Putin is this. We see you, we know what you're doing, and if the Yantar travels south this week, we are ready.
Well, let's bring in now both Rob Powell, our political correspondent here with us in Westminster, and Ivor Bennett, who's in Moscow for us for full team analysis. Ivor, to you first of all, what's been the Russian acknowledgement or at least response to John Healey on this?
Well, we have had a response from Russia, and it's what you might expect. They say there's nothing to see here. They claim this ship, the Yantar, is a standard research vessel, that it's not doing anything dodgy at all, that it's operating in international waters. And they claim the only provocation here has come from Britain, pointing to John Healey's comments there, his warnings that military options are ready. We haven't heard from the Kremlin yet itself. I expect we will a bit later this morning. Instead, the response came last night from the Russian embassy in London. In a statement, it said this: the endless accusations and suspicions of the British leadership only raise a smile. The actions of our country do not affect the interests of the United Kingdom and are not aimed at undermining its security. We are not interested, it said, in British underwater communications. But Britain believes otherwise. It believes that this ship is surveilling undersea cables. It's mapping them out, these cables and pipelines that carry data, that carry electricity and gas. And as an island nation, these are vital for Britain, of course. And the fear is that if an adversary like Russia might want to destabilise British society and harm military communications, that could be a pressure point to strike. And that's why the British government doesn't want this Russian ship anywhere near the Scottish coast.
Let's bring in Rob Powell here, shall we? So you've got the Russian response there, as in, I don't know why they're getting so worried. Yes. But they are worried, aren't they?
Yeah, they are concerned, partly because they say, the MOD say, that they used infrared photography on this ship, one of the photos you saw earlier, and they have other photos that proves beyond doubt that this isn't just tinkering around and looking at fishes, quite bluntly. This is something far more sinister than that. I think the other reason why they're concerned, the other reason why what happened actually in the last couple of weeks, not necessarily immediately, is the laser that was shone towards the surveillance plane that was sent to shadow it. That, they say, has not happened before from the Yantar, so that is not necessarily as common as the Yantar popping up on the edge of British waters, which has happened before. It happened earlier this year. They surfaced a submarine in that instance to do it.
So they see it as an escalation, basically?
I think so. They see it as a sort of, incrementally, it's a slight escalation in that respect. And John Healey was pretty clear yesterday that if the Yantar heads south, if it heads towards territorial waters, so inside that 12-mile boundary, then they have military options ready. You had the ex-head of MI6, Richard Dearlove, yesterday, suggesting that that could involve something like firing a warning shot towards Yantar. So you're in this sort of stage of shadow boxing where it's as much a sort of information war as it is anything kind of physical, but you can see how, a slight miscalculation could lead to something far more sinister.
I want to go back to Ivor in just a second, because the other story of the last sort of 12 to 24 hours has been talks coming out of the US, rumours coming out of the US that the US and Russia have been deeper in peace negotiations relating to the Russia-Ukraine war than perhaps we all realise. The sort of possibility of that being the case emerged in quite a fascinating fashion yesterday, which we'll come to Ivor on in a moment. But we've just had a response from Kaja Kallas, who's the EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, relating to these possible talks. Here's what she had to say.
What we as Europeans have always supported is a long-lasting and just peace, and we welcome any efforts to achieve that. Of course, for any plan to work, it needs Ukrainians and Europeans on board.
And so, Ivor, just set this up for us. What has emerged and how, because it's quite fascinating, this, in the last 24 hours?
Yeah, you're right, Wilf. So these reports surfaced yesterday morning that the US and Russia had been working kind of on the sidelines in the background on a new peace plan for Ukraine. The Kremlin dismissed these reports yesterday, playing them down, saying there was no new developments. But since then, over the last 24 hours, these reports have been fleshed out quite considerably, with a number of news outlets now reporting, citing sources, that this plan does exist. It's a 28-point peace plan, that it's been signed off by Donald Trump, and that he wants Ukraine to accept it. In terms of its substance, it doesn't sound like anything new. It reportedly includes, proposes major concessions for Ukraine, things we've heard before, like they have to give up territory in the Donbass that Russia hasn't yet taken, and that it must dramatically reduce the size of its armed forces, both of which are key demands by Vladimir Putin for peace. The architects of this plan were reportedly Steve Witkoff, Donald Trump's special envoy, and Kirill Dmitriev, who is basically Witkoff's opposite number here in Russia. He's a key ally of Putin. He's his investment envoy. And the two of them have developed a friendship and a bond and this diplomatic back channel, it seems, over the past few weeks and months. Will Ukraine go for it? I very much doubt it, because if these reports are correct, then these proposals, as I say, are nothing new. They are Russia's two key demands, and they are no concessions on their part, and they are red lines for Ukraine. They've long made that clear. So for Kyiv, this is a non-starter, and that's why you heard from Kaja Kallas there, Europe's foreign policy chief, that pushback that they and the Ukrainians have to be on board if there's going to be any kind of lasting peace.
Ivor, thank you very much indeed. And really just, I guess, kind of re-echoing the UK government's line as well, is that they just keep saying the same thing, that Ukraine needs to be in the room for these peace talks. And I'll be honest, looking at the bare bones of this deal that seem to be mooted, they most definitely are not still.
Yeah, we'll see if that continues to develop, but interesting to get the EU Foreign Affairs Chief Kallas' response on that. To Ivor and to Rob, thank you very much. And to the US now, and Donald Trump has signed a bill to release files from the investigation into the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
The US Justice Department now has 30 days to release all files related to Epstein, including, of course, the investigation into his death by suicide in prison.
Sky's US correspondent David Blevins is in Washington.
Well, things have moved very quickly. Members of Congress forced a vote on the release of all files. The House backed that almost unanimously, just one vote against, and it cleared the Senate without a single objection, taking it straight to the desk of the president. 24 hours later, Donald Trump posted this on Truth Social. I have just signed the bill to release the Epstein files. At my direction, the Department of Justice has already turned over close to 50,000 pages of documents to Congress. Do not forget, the Biden administration did not turn over a single file or page related to Democrat Epstein, nor did they ever even speak about him. Democrats have used the Epstein issue, which affects them far more than the Republican Party, in order to try and distract from our amazing victories. The Department of Justice has 30 days to comply, and we now know what it is mandated to hand over. All files related to Jeffrey Epstein and to his girlfriend Ghislaine Maxwell. Flight logs and travel details. All files related to individuals, including government officials. Related to entities with any known or alleged links to Epstein's trafficking or financial networks, any immunity deals, internal Department of Justice communications, all communication regarding the destruction or concealment of files, and all documentation related to Epstein's death and the cause of it. In a statement, the family of Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's victims who died by suicide this year, said, "This moment is nothing short of monumental for Virginia, for her survivor sisters. This work is not finished. Every name must be revealed, regardless of power, wealth, or party affiliation." President Trump has now commissioned an investigation into Epstein's links with Democrats. But prosecutors tend not to hand over files when there is an active investigation, and that's fueling concerns that some of the material could be withheld or redacted.
David Blevins for us there. Now, it's cold. We probably don't need us to tell you that. It is freezing, winter's arrived, and we've had lots of snow across the UK as well overnight to show for it too.
And it's looking promising for snowmen builders, with as much as 25 centimetres of powder predicted to settle on high ground surrounding the North York moors. Let's have a look at some of the winter wonderland pictures you've been sending in to us.
This is a winter wonderland. It really is. It's not the North Pole. It is Wintry Deer in Aviemore, which is a town in the Cairngorms National Park in the Scottish Highlands.
It doesn't really look real. It's so amazing,
that
place.
Beautiful.
This is Hexham Racecourse. I guess seeing as beautiful as it looks right now, the other side of it, because racing was abandoned due to snowfall. We'll be speaking, by the way, to their racecourse manager shortly.
And this is Woking. It was sent in by our viewer, John, who has said it's starting to feel like Christmas, and it does feel quite this beautiful little smattering of snow. Nice garden, John, I have to say. Email your snow pictures as well, mornings@sky.uk. We'd love to bring you some more.
Let's do update you, though, on the serious side of things. This is the latest weather forecast from the Met Office. Most of the UK is going to need you to wrap up warm. Yellow warnings stretching from Northern Ireland, North Scotland and east and southwest of England, across south of Wales too.
And now it's the first real cold snap of the season, with meteorologists predicting that some places could experience blizzards as well, and temperatures even dropping to minus 10 degrees in parts of Scotland tonight. They've had about 15 to 20 centimetres of snow potentially falling there as well. And there's been a Met Office alert for snow covering the Yorkshire coast from Middlesbrough to Bridlington too, warning frequent wintry showers will feed inland from the North Sea, giving significant snow accumulations over the North York moors and parts of the Yorkshire wolds. By the end of Thursday, as much as 15 to 25 centimetres may have accumulated on hills above 100 metres, likely to cause substantial disruption. Occasional blizzards, gusty winds and all the other stuff that you expect for snow true, but also some lightning strikes could accompany some of the showers with additional hazards there.
Let's bring in Shingy, who's in North Yorkshire for us. Hopefully he's been allowed a hot drink in between his last appearance with us. Shingy, what's the scene like there?
Well, we've seen the sharper end of that cold snap, which is taking place here in North Yorkshire, because this is where the amber weather warning is, and it's in place until 9 p.m, and that extends across parts of the coast, heading up from around Redcrow, Middlesbrough way, all the way up to Bridlington. And over the course of the morning, we've seen smatterings of snow that have started and stopped. But we know that those Met Office warnings will come with disruption to both the rail network and the roads. We know that a few A roads, in particular in rural areas of North Yorkshire, are impacted, and there's gridlock in those areas, with the police encouraging people to take care while they travel. And as always happens in North Yorkshire and other parts of the country that's slightly more rural when it snows, is that there's been a big gritting operation in place overnight, as well as over the course of the morning. We've seen not just gritting vehicles that would be run by the council, but we've also seen farmers travelling in and out of this area to go and help grit as well. As it stands, it's not as snowy as it was overnight. It's pretty light, if anything. But we do know that weather warning is in place until the evening, and with that will come warnings to take care as you travel.
Shingi, thanks very much indeed. You drawn the short straw this morning, so we appreciate you being with us there. Now, it is time, of course. We've got a bit of time to show a few more pictures, don't you think? This is sent in from Tim of his dog, Dolly, posing in front of the Pension Monument near Sunderland. Gorgeous picture there by Tim.
Unbelievably nice. Yeah, Joanna Reid from Blyth in Northumberland sent us this video of her dogs enjoying the garden snow, I presume late at night or early in the morning. There they are.
Lots of dogs and snow. And Brian Wright sent us this absolutely gorgeous picture of the snow in West Hill, Aberdeenshire. I love that kind of twilight, you know, when it's the moody lamp shots, it's the sun on the lights and the snow.
Talented photographers amongst our viewers.
Yeah.
And this final one, Stannington, Northumberland, taken by our viewer, another.
Gorgeous.
Unbelievable. Our viewers should be our camera people.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Really
Tori Clark sent us that one. And this is, where is this one coming from? Live? This is live, we're being told.
East Yorkshire.
There it is. Fantastic. Well, stay safe in the snow, but enjoy it. Now, it's less than a week to go until we see Rachel Reeves and her red box as she delivers her autumn budget.
And of course, there's been loads of speculation, loads of reports as to what we can expect her to announce, but there's always a few surprises, isn't there, as well? And the financial expert, Iona Bain, is here to break it all down with us.
Good morning to you.
Morning.
Great to have you with us. I mean, my first question to set this all up is the extent to which we think she will indeed now go for the lots of small tax changes approach versus pull one of the big tax levers like income tax or VAT. What's your reading on that?
Well, I think we've seen a move away from a big income tax rise. Of course, nothing will be confirmed until next Wednesday. We're in this very strange period where we're relying purely on leaks, speculation, reading the ruins. But it does seem that the Treasury has moved away from that decision to put 2p on income tax and then maybe lower national insurance to try to sweeten the pill for workers. Instead, the Treasury looks like it's going for the smorgasbord policy. That might be a reflection of the fact that Torsten Bell of Swedish descent is involved with the budget this year. But yeah, this will mean that there will be little changes, little tax rises here and there. But of course, it won't necessarily feel like it's a little tax rise for those who are directly affected. But the idea is that you spread them out among different groups rather than hit everyone and take that real political backlash that would have come from breaking that manifesto commitment to not raise taxes.
So some of the ones that we've heard mentioned, a taxi tax, a milkshake tax, gambling tax, break down how much those will actually raise for us versus the income tax type approach. Are they lucrative taxes to be increasing or not really?
Well, in each of these cases, they are raising a few £billion that will all add up to hopefully Rachel Reeves being able to fill that gap, to be able to meet that fiscal black hole that she's been trying to address. And of course, the numbers for that keep moving around because we're in this strange world now where we're having to rely on what feels like week by week forecasts from the Office for Budget Responsibility as to how big that fiscal black hole will be. So perhaps Rachel Reeves has, made that calculation that actually, because that black hole at the moment doesn't seem as bad as it did at one stage, that maybe raising a few taxes here and there, that let's face it, will mainly affect industry. If you look at, say, the milkshake tax, that's mainly looking at, raising that sugar levy on those that are making milkshake type products. These are taxes that are not going to be felt directly by consumers in their pocket. But of course, there's the argument that ultimately the costs will filter down to consumers and we will feel all these tax rises in the end.
Yeah, that's it about feeling, the tax rises, because I'm aware we often talk about these things in terms of, black holes and the political future of the Chancellor, but I guess what a lot of people will be wondering is there's a lot of worry, I guess, around this budget. We know it's going to be painful. We know how bad the situation is. How do you think people are going to be feeling afterwards? What's the impact going to be?
That's a really interesting question. I think people are resigned to the fact that there will be some kind of tax rise in this budget, even if it's not an explicit 2p hike in income tax. Even if we're looking at continuing frozen tax thresholds, more and more people are understanding what the impact of that will be on their take-home pay. So the idea there is that if you keep tax thresholds frozen, then as your income goes up, you're dragged into higher tax bands. you end up paying more tax. And maybe in the past this used to be quite an abstract economic concept, but it's become a very popular tactic, and it was used by the previous government, it will be used by this government, it looks like it's going to continue for the rest of this Parliament. And what will be really interesting to see is what the reaction to this will be next April, because that's when the state pension will go up. It's going up by 4.8%, and that's because mainly of the triple lock, which is the guarantee to raise the state pension by the highest of either 2.5% earnings or inflation. Earnings this year was 4.8%, so that means the state pension will be going up by that amount. But that puts the state pension, within touching distance of people having to pay tax for the first time. And lots of people are really shocked by that idea. Surely I shouldn't have to pay tax on my state pension. Well, sadly, you do. And if the frozen tax thresholds means that actually you are busting your personal allowance and your state pension starts being taxed in the future, I think that's going to be really unpopular.
You're very in touch with the kind of personal finance questions that people have across the country. Do you think the way in which we have all been talking about this budget and speculating so much in recent weeks and months has led to people pausing their activity, wondering, gosh, I don't know where we're going to stand on X, Y or Z for a while, and because there has been a lot of leaks and backs and forths, and you could also just say the date of the budget we've kind of had for quite some time and known there's going to be tax. Has that hurt economic activity, do you think?
I think it has, insofar as in two areas that I talk about a lot. I am seeing people panicking and deciding not to do anything for now, and that is always quite damaging, really, overall in terms of economic activity. So when it comes to pensions, there has been a lot of panic around whether the Chancellor might end up capping the amount that you can withdraw from your pension tax-free. And when people do that, they end up pulling that money out of their pension. They might end up paying more tax on it in the long run. And it might end up really messing up their retirement plans, because people do have to be very careful about how they manage their pensions so that it can last throughout their retirement. So that's been quite worrying, because whilst the Treasury has now said we're not going to touch that money, that's fine, all the speculation has been quite damaging, and we had it last year as well. And then when it comes to the housing market, I think the speculation around whether there could be changes to how buyers or sellers are taxed is just making people pause. And if you look at a lot of housing surveys, you can see that people are just choosing to stay put, maybe renovate, do up the house instead, rather than put it on the market. And there's a bit of a standoff, a Mexican standoff between buyers and sellers at the moment, with sellers not wanting to drop their prices and buyers maybe hoping that they can get a bargain, but not seeing very much on the market. So, yeah, I think the housing market is definitely feeling the effect of this longer speculation that we normally have for a budget.
Yeah, it's inevitable, I guess, isn't it? My other question was about wealth taxes, because there's been a lot of talk about maybe not like a wealth tax like the likes of Richard Bergen wants, but some kind of tax on assets, whether that's houses, whether that's changing the council tax bands. I mean, is that what we're looking at?
Yes, I think we might not see an explicit wealth tax, but it could be a wealth tax in all but name, because it will be applied to higher value assets like housing. So a very interesting piece of speculation that's come about in recent weeks is the idea of a mansion tax, and this is not new. I remember there was talk of there being perhaps a mansion tax.
Takes back to Ed Miliband days.
Exactly, yeah, a bit of a throwback there. So that idea has been revived because it is electorally very popular, but of course we will inevitably, if it does come to pass, find cases of people living in houses that are worth, a few £1 million.
So it's popular, that's interesting. The polling is that the public are behind it.
Except for those who actually have ended up living in these houses, who may not have very much income, who may have ended up being accidental property millionaires. There's plenty of them out there. So among those people, it won't necessarily be very popular. And re-evaluating council tax, I mean, every expert that you speak to says our council tax system is absolutely hopeless. The last time council tax bands were evaluated was in the 1990s. They haven't kept up with what property prices really are. If you look at council tax in Kensington, it's lower than in many parts of the country that are nowhere near as affluent. However, re-evaluating that whole system would be incredibly difficult and time-consuming, and therefore maybe the government is going to look more at those higher value property bands and hope maybe to find some easy wins there.
Iona, thanks so much. Really interesting. Iona Bain.
We're talking dad jokes now. Wilf, your time's come. MP is going to be telling dad jokes in the Commons. There's a serious point to it, though, because they're trying to highlight paternity leave concerns, which they say is the worst dad joke of the lot.
The Liberal Democrat MP for Henley and Tame, Freddie Van Mierlo, he's expected to tell the Commons, "I used to hate facial hair, but then it grew on me." That's not my finest joke, he'll go on to say, but nowhere near as bad as the joke played on over 500,000 dads each year. Paternity leave for just 2 weeks or less than half the minimum wage is not good enough, he's going to go on to say.
We'll get Will's best ever dad jokes in a minute, but we have had some in from viewers, which I'm excited about.
I'm looking forward to this.
So this is Alex. "I was out the other day and the police were looking for a stolen horse. On my way home, I saw a man covering a horse in cheese. He said it's the best way to mask a pony." Quite good. Like it. Adrian, "I got stung by a bee last week. It cost me £50 for a jar of honey." Oh, I get it now. Sorry, it took me a while. Stung as in, you got stung.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry. Adrian, I feel like we didn't do that joke justice.
I know.
Apologise.
I think that was us.
Yeah, it was.
We apologise. OK, we've got one from Gus. He says, "A penguin went into a bar and asked the barman, 'Has my brother been in?' The barman said, 'Don't know. What's he look like?'"
That's actually good. I actually like that one. That's very good.
So I've tried to deliver some of my best. So I'm going further down the list now. Oh dear, the director's just said.
Yeah, speaking for all of us.
OK, let's have a look. "I've been diagnosed as colourblind. I know. It's certainly come out of the purple." That one is pretty good, actually.
I don't get that. I don't get it. Come out of the purple.
Rather than the blue, because I'm colourblind.
Oh, sorry. Oh my goodness, it's like Adrian all over again. I just...
By the way, even a bad dad joke is fantastic.
What do you call a chicken looking at some lettuce?
Looking at some lettuce? I don't know. What do you call a chicken looking at some lettuce?
Chicken Caesar salad.
That's very good. On that note, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
A killing on a stag do on a Greek party island. Sky News investigates.
The sound that I heard will never leave me.
The two assailants walk off at first and then run off up the street.
People are walking free for 6 years that have done this. That doesn't make any sense.
Whoever that person is, was a big problem that night.
Even though police had a video showing them exactly what happened, we will reveal how they made the simplest of blunders. Is that you? Is that you?
we are under Israeli military restrictions in terms of some of the things that we can film, but it's important to be in there. What a slow drive for the president as he approaches his golf club.
4 more years!
Free wherever you get your news. I'm Mark Stone and I'm Sky's correspondent based here in Washington, D.C.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back. Let's get you up to speed on the main stories. European leaders have said today that any peace plan between Ukraine and Russia cannot be done without involvement from Ukraine and the EU, after reports that US and Russian leaders drafted a new plan to end the war without their involvement.
The Defence Secretary John Healey says the UK is exploring its military options if a Russian spy ship sails closer to UK shores. For the second time this year, the Yantar is in British waters. It's currently off the coast of North Scotland, and it's been closely monitored by the Royal Navy.
Parts of the UK could see up to 25 centimetres of snowfall today as blizzard conditions hit the UK. Amber weather warnings are in place for parts of Yorkshire, while coastal areas are being told to look out for snow and ice.
Right, let's talk weight loss jabs. Chances are you know someone who's using them, or certainly suspect someone that you know is using them. Their boom in popularity isn't just among adults, though, because there are a number of children and teenagers who are also keen to have this treatment.
There's currently only one clinic in the UK able to prescribe the weight loss drug Wegovy to under 18s. It's run by the specialist Dr. Cindy Newman, who runs the Private Diet UK practice.
Well, Dr. Cindy joins us live now. I'm interested, you're the only one, is that right, who's able to do this? So I guess it shows the controls that are in place.
Yeah.
What age is the youngest that you prescribe it to?
The youngest patient I have is 12, and Wegovy has a licence for treatment for 12 to 17-year-olds.
And what kind of children are you seeing coming in? Are you having to turn people down? What kind of controls are in place?
Well, there are very strict guidelines on who can take Wegovy. And so what we do is we assess the children very carefully, and they have to have a certain body weight, and they have to be above the 95th centile chart, because we assess children differently from adults. So the children are ready for treatment and very desperate to have their obesity managed.
I guess one of the brilliant aspects of these drugs has been that it's a new option for other people that have tried everything else throughout their lives. Is it possible that a 12-year-old has tried everything else through absolutely no fault of their own? Am I raising this? But I think for people who are 50 and have tried for years other options, you can see that it's worth trying the medical route. Do you try other routes first?
Of course. By the time the children come to me, they have usually very conscientious parents who have taken them everywhere. They've been assessed by their GPs, by paediatricians, and sometimes by psychiatrists as well. And so they've been fully assessed, but they are not able to access this treatment anywhere. We know that it's prescribed in a limited way in the NHS. So the Q clinics, the complications of extreme weight management clinics, do prescribe Wegovy. But we don't want children to get to extreme weight before they're able to access this treatment.
So the National Institute of Health and Care Excellence, so NICE, has been unable to make a recommendation about the use of Wegovy on teens in the UK because of what they describe as the lack of evidence of their impact. And my understanding is there are two studies that are going on at the minute, NHS hospitals, Birmingham, Leeds, Liverpool and Bristol, on Wegovy's impact on teenagers.
Yes.
Is it not better to wait until those trials come back so we do have more evidence on what the impact could be on children? Because Kids are different from adults, right?
Yes, but there is sufficient evidence already.
From where?
From the STEP-Teen study, which Novo Nordisk has run.
But it's not good enough for NICE. They said they can't make a recommendation because they don't have enough evidence.
Well, that's only because they haven't been given the full evidence from the drug company at the moment.
Well, why not?
But Novo Nordisk is the manufacturer. I mean, I don't think that's impartial advice, is it?
No, not at all. But I mean, if you look at the United States, they've looked at over 1,000 children, and they have very strong evidence that when the children are prescribed this medication, I mean, for example, 30% of children lost 20% of their body weight, and all the safety studies have been carried out.
Look, I can totally get right the need to try and fight obesity in kids and the battle that many parents have, right, and the health impact it has as well. But I guess my question is, we have to be super careful on this stuff because we're talking about 12-year-olds. If NICE say they can't make a recommendation because of lack of evidence, why don't we just wait a bit till we get those trials back?
Because NICE are there to assess the cost-effectiveness of a medication, which is a completely different issue. Wegovy is being prescribed in the NHS, but only in a limited way because of funding.
Why is it so rare that it's given in this country to teenagers? Are we right that we said that you're the only place that does that?
Yes, because we don't work in the NHS. We're the first private clinic to offer this treatment.
Why do you think others aren't? It I guess, suggests that not everyone is on the same page as you.
Well, absolutely, because Diet UK, my clinic, has been established for 35 years and we're very experienced at treating obesity. And also, we have put into place a very strict protocol in accordance with the guidelines of prescribing. And we are able to treat the 12 to 17-year-olds because we've had clearance with the CQC as well. So that's quite a process. That's quite a lengthy and involved process, which we've managed to implement.
And just talk, because I know, talking to one of our producers before the programme, she was talking about the story that you had about why you decided to go into this, like the kind of stories that you were seeing and the kind of people that you were seeing coming into your clinic.
Yeah, so we've treated adults for many years, and it was the parents that were coming to me, and they were very insistent about wanting to find treatment for their children. And they started to ask me if I would treat their children, but at that point, we hadn't gone down the process of putting the protocols in place. And I'd signposted them back to their own doctors, their own GPs, but they kept on returning to me and saying, look, we're absolutely desperate for treatment. So there were about 4 or 5 parents who came to me, and 1 or 2 of them were actually begging me to do this. And I found that very strange because people don't usually beg for treatment, do they? And I thought, why are they begging me? So when I investigated it further, I realised that there was only very limited access to the treatment.
Why were the parents... I'm sorry, I find this really interesting. There's lots of very thorny... Why were they so desperate for their kids to get treatment? Because do we need to reframe how we look at body image, particularly in children? Because I worry about, I do worry about, if you're a girl and you're 13 and you've got all the pressures that are going on to look a certain way, and if your mum and dad are saying, don't worry, I'm going to get you an injection and that's going to make you slim. I mean, what message is that giving to them?
But it isn't as simple as that. It's not about body image just on its own. It's about treating obesity, which, is a chronic progressive disease. And if you don't treat this condition, 80% of these children are going to become obese adults. And there are all the issues around the comorbidities, the psychological aspects. And what was absolutely heartbreaking for me was the fact that I was listening to children who are stopped going to school. And if they are at school, they're not taking part in sports, extreme bullying. In our team, it's multidisciplinary. We have a psychotherapist who works with us as well to help these children. So it's a very complex interplay of very many factors here that's devastating the lives of these children. And 30% of children are obese in this country.
Yeah, but we don't think 30% should be on jabs, right?
I mean, I think...
Pardon?
But I don't think we think 30% of... do you think 30% of kids should be on these jabs?
No, because, some children, are able to lose weight without the medication, but the clinical studies do show that it's pharmacotherapy that makes the greatest impact. You've got to look at the trajectory here, that, children are going to get more and more obese and more sick. And the one thing that really helps is prescribing the medication, but it has to be prescribed under medical supervision.
OK. I mean, there are obviously, I should say, you know, just to put the other balance, there are obviously a range of things that do help with obesity. It's not the only thing that kids can turn to as well. It's been great to have you on and talking to you today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Dr. Cindy Newman there. Now to Gaza, and Sky News has witnessed firsthand the devastation caused by months of relentless bombardment. Israel doesn't allow news organisations to report independently from Gaza, but yesterday it took a group of journalists, including Sky News, into the area of the Strip occupied by Israeli forces.
Now, just to set out exactly the circumstances, the brief visit was highly controlled. We had no access to Palestinians or other areas of Gaza, and military censorship laws in Israel mean that military personnel was shown all of the material before publication. However, important to say, Sky News did maintain editorial control of this report at all times. Here's Adam Parsons.
Well, earlier this week, the United Nations agreed a resolution to back Donald Trump's 20-point peace plan for Gaza. And that plan was fueled by optimism for the future. But the problem is, reality bites when you come here and look at that. That is what's left of the outskirts of a place called Shujaiya near Gaza City. It is a landscape of complete and utter devastation. It's very hard to see a single building that hasn't either been destroyed or blown up. And there are no civilians, no signs of life here. The Israeli military has brought us to this base, but they tell us what we can film, where we can go. So, for instance, I can film that, but I can't film a military base over there. And the other thing is that we're not allowed to talk to any civilians. Now, they are only a few hundred meters in that direction. There is a large red and white mast over there in the distance, and that is the marker for the so-called yellow line, which now divides Gaza into two. We're on the side that is controlled by Israel. Over on that side, it is Hamas and other clans who are in control. But there's hardly anybody living on this side. It is predominantly the military. Most of Gaza's 2 million population, the vast majority, are on the other side. The stabilization force that was agreed to by the UN still has a very vague remit. And right now it's not clear whether or not they will go on to that far side where Hamas and other groups are still roaming. So this peace plan does bring optimism, but there are so many unanswered questions about the rebuilding of this, about the money that will be needed, about that stabilization force, and about Hamas. The deal says they have to disarm, but will they? And if they don't, who's going to make them?
I say Adam's able to join us live now. Adam, and the backdrop that we saw just then, it was unbelievable, the devastation that was behind you. What was it like to be there on the ground in the midst of it all?
It is an extraordinary sight, and it's replicated across much of Gaza, because what you have in front of you is a landscape of complete destruction, of not a single building that you can see that hasn't been at least very badly damaged. You don't see any wildlife, you don't see any people, there's no greenery, no trees, there's no windows in any buildings. Some of them are completely pancaked, so like a 6-story building that is just reduced to 6 lines of concrete. You see others that have got huge scorch marks on them where they've obviously either had an explosion or been hit by an airstrike. So it is a pretty apocalyptic landscape. And it stretches out into the distance. That's what I think really strikes you, is the complete lack of life. I mean, you saw wild dogs. I think I saw one bird hopping around, and other than that, no people, no other animals, no trees, no flowers. So it's a bleak landscape, and it's replicated across Gaza, and that is what makes it so difficult to believe that people can live in these areas. Funnily enough, one of our colleagues from Gaza we contacted, and they went to see if there were anybody living on the other side of Shujaiya, just beyond the yellow line where we were. And they found a small number of people living in the rubble who were actually about 500 metres from where I was standing. And these were families in desperate situations who'd come back to their homes, discovered they'd been destroyed, and one woman who our team there spoke to said that she had given up and was expecting that at some point her family would be found dead.
Adam, extraordinary stuff. What was the vibe with the Israelis that took you in but monitored you throughout?
Yeah, so they took us into the base. They weren't standing with us watching what we were filming. And the point is they wanted to take us there. They wanted to show us what was happening, and they wanted to get across their perspective, which is that Hamas is not disarming. In their perspective, it is rearming. It is asserting control again in the other half of Gaza. And I think their mood from that is that there is still an active threat to the people of Israel. The base that we were in was in Gaza, but it was only a very short drive from the border with Israel. Hamas fighters had come through that area on October the 7th to launch attacks there. And I think from their perspective, they would say they still feel frightened. The people in those towns around there, they report, are still scared of the resurgence of Hamas. So their message to us, and frankly to the world, is that unless Hamas disarms, Israel won't feel safe. And I think what that means is that the Israeli military will stay in that zone.
Adam, as always, thanks so much. Adam Parsons there. By the way, if you scan the QR code on your screen, you can watch his full report on the Sky News website.
Coming up in just a moment, we are going to be talking snow. Hexham Racecourse, one of the most scenic racecourses in the UK, have had to call off all their races. It is right up there between Newcastle and Carlisle, and we're going to be talking to the manager just after this short break.
She's preparing the ground to raise taxes.
The budget, I've got to do the things that I think are right.
There are tax rises coming down the track.
You can't rule out further tax rises. It's exactly what she's going to have to do.
She'll be talking about that when it comes to the budget.
We'll be talking everything money as the Chancellor reveals what's in her budget.
Goodness knows how it's going to play out if these tax rises are announced.
Eastern Libya is the new doorway to Europe for people being smuggled from Africa and Asia.
We are close to Greece. You can see it.
We've obtained unprecedented access to the authorities.
Do you feel you're just scratching the surface?
We've been on the raids, out with the Coast Guard,
That's so desperate.
and inside the detention centres.
How did you cope with that?
To find what's pushing people to Europe and what's driving the authorities here to stop them.
Mayhem in the Middle East, rippling in America's West.
Get back! Get back!
The resolve of these protesters is now being seriously tested. I saw police being forced or pushing young men and women to the ground as they made almost 100 arrests.
None of this is a peaceful protest.
I'm Martha Kellner and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Los Angeles. How are you feeling? I am angry.
It is an anti-woman agenda.
Will the cold affect your voters?
Well, we have a lot of tremendous support, but it's nasty out there.
Anybody else?
Should the Defence Secretary and the Vice...
Wait, what country are you
from? The UK.
Okay, we don't give a crap about your opinion and your reporting. Why don't you go back to your country where you have a major migrant problem?
President Biden, do you trust President Xi? President Biden says that this meeting went well. He said real progress was made on a whole host of issues. Will your candidates win?
I hope so. I think they will. I think they're great candidates.
There's no doubt that Kamala Harris and her team are harnessing the power of social media. Do you think Kamala is brat?
Kamala's brat.
Were you scared?
Yeah, we were scared. It was terrible. Strong wind, building tearing down.
As them say, our God works, so we can't do nothing.
The people here know that worse storms may well be on their way. Sky News. Get the full story first. Free wherever you get your news. Ghislaine Maxwell has pleaded not guilty to all 6 charges against her. Mum, how are you feeling today?
Jeffrey said, you answer to Ghislaine, you just don't cross her.
I'm Stephen Murphy, and I'm Sky's Ireland correspondent based here in Dublin.
The waters of Ireland and Britain should be home to great white sharks.
If there are great white sharks in this area, there's no reason they wouldn't come here to feed. It's basically a buffet on a beach.
This could be not only a record-breaking storm, but potentially the most dangerous storm ever to hit Ireland.
Welcome back. Now, we hope you've got out the hats and gloves because winter has well and truly set in over the last couple of days.
Many parts of the country have seen snow. For most, it wasn't snowman conditions, but this is the picture at Hexham Racecourse.
So 2 inches of snow fell there. They failed their 8 a.m. Inspection, which meant they couldn't race the horses there, but it did make it look unbelievably beautiful. And scenic as well. Hexham, by the way, is right up in the north. It is close to in between Carlisle and Newcastle. And we can talk now to Robert Whiteluck, who is the manager at Hexham Racecourse. What's the current situation? How's the snow looking?
The snow looking is very much like it did yesterday morning with the video that I sent you. There has been slight thaw, but the course is still snow-covered, as is all the ground around it, and the stands as well.
You gave us one of the most gorgeous pieces of videos and footage. I have to say thank you so much for sending it in. It was really quite something.
How damaging is bad weather like this? If you miss a day's racing, is it par for the course given where you're based, given the weather we always get this time of the year, or is it a big blow to your business?
Well, it's a massive blow to the business because you've got to look at a number of things. First of all, we have to consider both human and equine welfare. And it obviously wasn't safe to race or safe to let people come to the course. We had a lot of hospitality booked yesterday, together with everyone that had purchased tickets to come racing in advance. So we need to refund all of those, together with the other income that we would have received for the day. And bearing in mind that we have 15 race meetings a year, then we've lost potentially 7% of our income in one day.
Oh, wow, that does put it in perspective. It really does. And does this happen quite a lot to the racecourse, given where it is? It's obviously known as one of the most kind of scenic in the country, but is this a kind of occupational hazard?
We've been very fortunate the last few years that we have, unfortunately, lost one meeting, and we lost this same meeting last year. Through excessive rain. This year we've lost it through snow, but you can't beat the weather, you can't beat nature, can you? So we just have to prepare for it and hope that the weather's now favouring that we're able to race.
Robert, can I just switch whilst we've got you? Budget next week, put you on the spot a little bit. There's rumours of the gambling tax going up a bit. Is that something that you're fearful of for your industry?
I think it's extremely concerning for the whole of the industry, not just racecourses, but you need to bear in mind that racing employs somewhere in the region of about 80,000 people throughout the country, in trainers' yards, farriers, the likes of ourselves, and all of the other associated industries. And any impact that the budget will have on the industry will not just affect racing, it will affect local communities as well.
We had Gordon Brown on the programme 10 days ago, and his argument on this was, aside from the negative externalities that come with gambling, and typically that leads to an argument for higher taxes, but his main point was that if you look at other countries, including, for example, the US, their taxes on gambling are higher than ours, and argued that the industry would be all right with a little bit of an increase.
I wouldn't like to say that the industry will be all right. I think any increase will be very damaging. I think what you have to bear in mind, the gambling on racing, or racing and gambling, has been intertwined for many years. And I don't think that is where the problems are. You hear about problem gambling, and I think it's a lot easier for people to sit at home and play slot machines in casinos. And I think that is where the harm is done with gambling, not necessarily betting on racing.
It's been really interesting to get your perspective today, and thanks again for sending in that absolutely, I mean, it's a glorious picture. We think it's a glorious picture, but it's obviously had an impact on the business as well. When are you hoping to reopen?
Our next race meeting is Wednesday, the 10th of December. So it's all systems go for then, and we'll just hope that the weather stays in our favour.
Do you have some Boxing Day racing as well?
No, we don't. Once we've raced in December, we don't race again until the 12th of March, Thursday the 12th of March, the same day as the Cheltenham Festival.
Well, thank you. Robert, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and we're fingers crossed that you're all good for the next race. Thank you.
Love a cheeky day at the races. I don't know anything about horses. Just pick the one that has a name that's appealing, but it's a fun day out.
I do. I love it. I do as well. And I have to say, looking at that gorgeous snowfield shot, it looks quite tempting.
Well, I know they've got to obviously put the safety first, but it's almost makes it more appealing to be there.
This is Berkhamsted, by the way, where things have been pretty bad. This is Hexham at that race course that we were just talking about as well. Of course, if you've got any more pictures, send them in. We're getting a lovely selection, I have to say. This is our favourite, though, I think.
Yeah.
More.
Unbelievable, this one. And it's been great to get everyone's pictures in. And should we end the hour on a dad joke?
Oh, my goodness.
I'm trying to find one I haven't read out yet.
We've unleashed a monster here.
Yeah, you
dad
have.
jokes. I have to explain why Wilf wants to do a dad joke, by the way. It's because MPs in Parliament...
No, we don't have to explain it. This is going to become a feature every single day. I'm a dad, and I'm going to tell a joke. Oh, no, I've been... Oh, there's a great one. So I figured there's a serious grower. OK, here we go. My new thesaurus is terrible. Not only that, it's also terrible.
I can think of a few other things that are terrible, Wilf. I'm not going to lie. But we're doing this because MPs are reading out dad jokes in Parliament because they say the biggest joke of all is a lack of paternity leave. More to come.
What might happen if Russia attacked the UK?
This is clearly an enormous show of force.
It is definitely out of the ordinary.
We ran a war game with former ministers back in the hot seat.
Ben Wallace.
Amber Rudd.
Jack Straw.
It's the kind of war game that's genuinely tested inside government.
The Russians are signalling that there may be an attack.
Russia knows our weaknesses, but do you? I'm Deborah Haynes. From Sky News and Tortoise, this is The War Game. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning, it is 9 o'clock and welcome to Mornings with Ridge and Frost.
With Sophie and Wilf, good morning from me as well. Lots to get to.
European leaders say any peace agreement must involve Ukraine and the EU after reports the US and Russia drafted a secret plan to end the war.
A Russian spy ship enters UK waters and shines lasers at an RAF plane tracking it. The Defence Secretary says British forces are ready to respond.
Donald Trump gives in to months of pressure, signing a bill to release the Epstein files, and then he goes on the attack, saying the truth about Democrats' associations with Epstein will be revealed.
And it's freezing out there and amber weather warnings in place. Up to 25 centimetres of snow is forecast to fall in parts of the country.
Also ahead, we'll be joined by the campaigner Patsy Stevenson, who's calling for women-only carriages on the London Underground.
Plus, over half of writers say artificial intelligence will replace them. Can you spot stories written by a bot, versus those written by our team?
A bot wouldn't do that, by the way.
No, it wouldn't. I deserve... We begin with a developing story this morning. In the last hour, European leaders have said that any peace plan to end the war in Ukraine can't work without involvement from Ukraine and the EU. It's after reports that the US and Russia have drafted a plan with suggestions that neither the Ukrainians nor the Europeans were privy to the developments.
The UK government position on this, both under our government and the previous government, is really clear that Ukraine absolutely needs to be in these negotiations at the table as an active participant player.
They're not.
Well, they need to be. And any decision needs to be made with Ukraine in the room. And that is the UK government position. We've used our foreign policy activity, our relationships with the US to make that point. We'll continue.
Doesn't sound like it's had much of a use, though, has it? I mean, I guess it just shows how we're not in the room either.
I think as you follow this story, it takes lots of twists and turns, as happens with the US administration sometimes.
So that was Josh McAllister on this programme from the UK government saying that Ukraine needs to be in the room, and it was a similar message from the EU Foreign Affairs Chief as well.
What we as Europeans have always supported is a long-lasting and just peace, and we welcome any efforts to achieve that. Of course, for any plan to work, it needs Ukrainians and Europeans on board.
Well, let's get out to Moscow with Iva, who's there for us. Iva, what have the Russians been saying about all of this?
Well, the Russians, first of all, yesterday dismissed these reports that there was some sort of secret negotiations going on with the Americans and them. The Kremlin played down these reports that this peace plan was being drawn up. They said there were no new developments. But then over the course of these last 24 hours, of course, these reports have been fleshed out pretty substantially and considerably, with multiple outlets now reporting that this peace plan does exist, that it's a 28-point peace plan, that Donald Trump has signed off on it, and that he wants Ukraine to agree to it. In terms of its substance, it doesn't sound like anything new, anything we haven't heard before. The proposals reportedly include Ukraine having to give up territory in the Donbass that Russia hasn't yet taken and seized, that it must dramatically reduce the size of its military, which would both represent massive concessions for Ukraine. Now, the architect of this plan are supposedly Steve Witkoff, who's Donald Trump's special envoy, his chief negotiator. He worked on the Gaza peace plan, of course. And from the Russian side, it's Kirill Dmitriev, who is a close ally of Vladimir Putin's. He's Russia's investment envoy, and the two of them are basically opposite numbers. We've seen them in the past appear quite pally whenever Witkoff has come to Moscow, which he's done multiple times in the last year. But it now seems over the past few weeks they've developed this diplomatic back channel to draw up this peace plan. The key question is, will Ukraine go for it? And I think the answer is almost certainly not, because if these reports are correct, then these proposals merely amount to Russia's long-held demands and also Ukraine's long-held so-called red lines. They've always maintained that this is tantamount to surrender these two crucial points on territory and reduction of armed forces. And so for them, this is a non-starter. And that's why you're hearing from Britain and also Europe that they need to be at the table for there to be any kind of real substantive talks on a peace deal.
Ivan, thank you very much indeed. Well, let's turn now to the Russian spy ship that is currently stalking the coast of Scotland and even shone lasers at RAF aircraft that were tracking it. So the Defence Secretary has said that the UK is exploring military options if the boat, which is called the Yantar, sails any closer to British shores. John Healey had a pretty robust message to Russia. We are ready.
And it's not the first time that that particular Russian vessel has been seen in British waters. Here we're looking at pictures from 2018 when it was being followed by the British Navy, the Royal Navy. The reappearance of the ship prompted this warning from the Defence Secretary.
So my message to Russia and to Putin is this. We see you. We know what you're doing. And if the Yantar travels south this week, we are ready.
Well, Rob's here to talk to us about the significance of this. And, I mean, we've touched on the fact that the Defence Secretary to have to say this is a big moment. I guess there's another question. What if they test us and cross a little bit closer to UK shores? What would be the response?
Yeah, where the ship has been at the moment is in the exclusive economic zones. That's the sort of wider waters, the 200-mile boundary. But John Healey was pretty clear when he said yesterday, if it heads south, if it heads towards territorial waters, the 12-mile boundary, then they have military options that are ready. You had the former head of MI6, Sir Richard Dearlove, yesterday saying that one possibility could be firing a warning shot towards the Yantar. Last time it was here earlier this year off the south coast, off the southwest of the UK, they surfaced a nuclear-powered submarine basically right in the course of where the Yantar was heading. And this was a sub that had been tracking the Yantar, but the Yantar didn't know it was there. And they changed the rules of engagement, what they're essentially allowed to do, in order to bring this submarine up to basically say, look, we're watching you, we know exactly what you're doing. And I think that was the point of the Defence Secretary making this statement yesterday as well, sort of part of the information war, saying, look, we're full in the knowledge of what you're doing, and we won't hesitate to respond if this gets any further. Of course, what Russia has said is that this is an oceanographic vessel, sure. and essentially that there's nothing to see here, but I don't think anyone in the military or the UK government or perhaps in UK more widely believes that.
It feels like it's a pattern of behaviour as well from Russia, doesn't it? And just kind of testing. So having the ship, it keeps going around, it keeps getting a bit closer. And then the lasers, I mean, that is a very provocative act. And then, of course, they've had more widely across different countries in Europe as well, like flying drones into airspace and so on. It's almost like saying, where's the limit? What are you going to do about it?
Absolutely. And I think the sort of incremental push in this is the lasers, because the MOD say that they haven't seen that before from this ship. And look, all it takes is a slight miscalculation for this to move from something where it's sort of more like shadow boxing almost, testing the limits, to something where the limits get tested too much and you end up with something a lot more spikier.
That's right.
Rob, great stuff. As always, thank you very much. Now to the US, and Donald Trump has signed a bill to release files from the investigation to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
The US Justice Department now has 30 days to release all files related to Epstein, including the investigation into his suicide in prison.
Sky's US correspondent David Blevins has this for us from Washington.
Well, things have moved very quickly. Members of Congress forced a vote on the release of all files. The House backed that almost unanimously, just one vote against, and it cleared the Senate without a single objection, taking it straight to the desk of the president. 24 hours later, Donald Trump posted this on Truth Social. I have just signed the bill to release the Epstein files. At my direction, the Department of Justice has already turned over close to 50,000 pages of documents to Congress. Do not forget, the Biden administration did not turn over a single file or page related to Democrat Epstein, nor did they ever even speak about him. Democrats have used the Epstein issue, which affects them far more than the Republican Party, in order to try and distract from our amazing victories. The Department of Justice has 30 days to comply, and we now know what it is mandated to hand over. all files related to Jeffrey Epstein and to his girlfriend Ghislaine Maxwell, flight logs and travel details, all files related to individuals, including government officials, related to entities with any known or alleged links to Epstein's trafficking or financial networks, any immunity deals, internal Department of Justice communications, all communication regarding the destruction or concealment of files, and all documentation related to Epstein's death and the cause of it. In a statement, the family of Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's victims who died by suicide this year, said, "This moment is nothing short of monumental for Virginia, for her survivor sisters. This work is not finished. Every name must be revealed, regardless of power, wealth, or party affiliation." President Trump has now commissioned an investigation into Epstein's links with Democrats. But prosecutors tend not to hand over files when there is an active investigation, and that's fueling concerns that some of the material could be withheld or redacted.
David Blevins there for us. Now, we don't need to tell you that the temperatures have dropped. It's been pretty cold this week, and we've had plenty of snow as well in the last 24 hours, and we've got some pictures for you.
So if you want to build a snowman, things are looking up. There's as much as 25 centimetres of powder predicted to settle on high ground surrounding the North York moors. And we can have a little look at some of the, I have to say, absolutely glorious pictures you've been sending in. This one's got to top it. We've got to show this every hour because it is just the best. Wintry deer spotted in Aviemore, which is a town in the Cairngorms National Park in the Scottish Highlands.
Really unbelievable one there, sent in, not even sure who sent this one in, but fantastic. It was not great news for racegoers, albeit it is for us that like a good view. At Hexham Racecourse in Northumberland, racing had to be abandoned yesterday due to that snowfall, but it left a wonderful backdrop either way.
And this is John in Woking who sent us this. I love this. I mean, it's a gorgeous video. This is his back garden, lovely back garden as well. And he said that it's making him feel excited for Christmas now. And just looking at that, I can see why. Email your snow pictures to us, mornings@sky.uk, or you can also, of course, text us on social media too.
Should we give you the official weather warning as well, the important stuff as well from the Met Office? Most of the UK is expecting various bouts of cold weather. The yellow warnings themselves are stretching from Northern Ireland, North Scotland, the east and southwest of England and across South Wales. The first notable cold snap of the season, this, with meteorologists predicting some areas may experience blizzards. Temperatures could drop to -10 Celsius in parts of Scotland tonight, where between 15 and 20 centimetres of snow could fall.
The Met Office has issued a snow alert across the Yorkshire coast from Middlesbrough to Bridlington, and it's also been warning about frequent wintry showers feeding inland from the North Sea, giving significant snow accumulations over the North York moors and parts of the Yorkshire wolds. By Thursday, as much as 15 to 25 centimetres, they say, could have accumulated on some of those higher hills with, of course, all of the disruption that follows that as well.
We've got a few more little pictures coming through, I think, as well. This is from Pete Cummings.
Oh, controversial, Pete. It's got the Christmas tree up as well.
No, I'm sorry, I'm coughing at this second, but I'm fully supportive of it, Pete.
It's a lovely picture. It's a lovely picture as well. This is Seaham, lots of snow there in Seaham as well. We can look at pictures from Angela from County Durham as well. What a lovely picture. It's like you're an amateur photographer there. This is County Durham, showing how nature is holding up against the chill.
And this one has been sent in by Tim of his dog Dolly, posing in front of the Penshaw Monument near Sunderland.
I was so intrigued by this picture that I've actually been Googling it in the break. It's based on an Athenian temple, and it was erected for an earl, apparently, who was known as someone who got rid of the rotten boroughs and was quite popular with some of the pit workers. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of nerding out here. But it's a gorgeous picture that we really like. And I just want to show you this one too from Joanna Reid. This is Blythe in Northumberland, who sent us this video of her dogs going absolutely wild in the snow in her garden as well. Brian Wright sent us this one from the snow in West Hill in Aberdeenshire as well. And this is Stannington in Northumberland, which was taken by a viewer, Tory Clark. Some beautiful, beautiful snow pictures as well. Paul Woodhead hopefully doesn't have to travel far today, because this video from him in Camington in East Riding of Yorkshire, I think, shows just how the snow settled. And finally, this is Loch Clanu in Scotland, blanketed in snow. Thanks very much to James McInnes for this. What a picture that is. Absolutely gorgeous.
Well, we're going to take a quick break now, and when we come back, we'll be talking to the Tories, to Kevin Hollinrake.
A killing on a stag do on a Greek party island. Sky News investigates.
The sound that I heard will never leave me.
The two assailants walk off at first and then run off up the street.
People are walking free for 6 years that have done this. That doesn't make any sense.
Whoever that person is, there's a big problem that night.
Even though police had a video showing them exactly what happened, we will reveal how they made the simplest of blunders. Is that you? Is that you?
We are under Israeli military restrictions in terms of some of the things that we can film, but it's important to be in there. What a slow drive for the president as he approaches his golf club.
4 more years!
Free wherever you get your news. I'm Mark Stone and I'm Sky's correspondent based here in Washington, D.C.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back. We're in, of course, full budget prediction mode. Awful lot of speculation about what could be happening in the budget coming up next week, of course, but also a lot of foreign affairs around at the minute as well. We're talking of a potential deal for Ukraine as well. So time to talk to the opposition. I'm pleased to say the Conservative Party chairman, Kevin Hollinrake, is here with us. Good to have you.
Morning.
It feels like this Ukraine story is unfolding this morning. We know that US negotiators are over in the region to try and thrash out some kind of deal. The EU have come forward to say Ukraine's got to be in the room. We heard from the government this morning saying Ukraine's got to be in the room. What's your position?
Well, very much that. I mean, Ukraine's got to be at the table, not on the table. You know, this is Ukraine has been supported by Western nations. The UK was the first nation to support Ukraine under a Conservative government, of course. So we want to make sure that they are happy with any deal that's agreed. That's got to be the right thing. Otherwise, it just incentivises Putin to push on again. That's the reality. And the other thing that's got to happen, as well as the territorial side of this, is got to make sure that Putin doesn't come back for more. And that's what everybody's worried about, of course. So it's got to be a deal that Ukraine's happy with first and foremost. But the rest of Europe and the Western world that has supported Ukraine has got to be happy that this isn't going to happen again.
I mean, look, we're in a situation where, of course, we haven't seen anything confirmed, but the kind of reports are speculating about Ukraine having to giving up territory that it currently holds. I mean, Ukraine aren't going to accept that, are they?
I can't see that. It doesn't sound right at all. And it's all speculation at this point in time. So, you know, we urge people to get to the table and to negotiate, of course, but those negotiations must include Zelensky, must include Ukraine. It's got to be a deal they're happy with. But as I say, it's also going to mean there is security in Europe and this doesn't happen again and that Putin doesn't feel he can take further steps either in Ukraine or in other countries. That would be disastrous. This has got to be settled once and for all.
And we're in a situation now, of course, we've got this Russian spy ship shining lasers at RAF planes.
Yeah.
I mean, how should the government respond to that?
We've got to respond with strength, and that's why I'm most concerned about Keir Starmer. He's not a strong leader in any shape or form.
What does responding with strength mean?
Well, similar strength to we used when we supported Ukraine right from the start, even before Putin invaded. We provided Ukraine with weapons. In terms of the UK, of course, we won't talk about specific actions, but I thought John Healey was right, the Defence Secretary, when he said that we're ready to act. If Russia continues with these incursions, that's got to be right. Whatever actions need to be taken to stop Russia putting our service personnel, our pilots at risk, we've got to take.
You're on today because looking ahead to the budget next week, you're chair of the Conservative Party. Is the main problem that, you know, and being honest, it just doesn't really feel like you're in the conversation?
Well, I'm in the conversation now. I'm happy to have a conversation with you about what needs to be done, and that needs to be cutting public spending. And there's only two options here, because Rachel Reeves has created her own black hole here. It's because of the disastrous budget last year.
She hasn't created her own black hole.
Oh, yes, she has. And
no, but you can argue that things have got worse and decisions that they've made have made things worse. But there was obviously a black hole before as well, wasn't there, in the public finances?
No, that's not true. I mean, the reality is...
Well, there's a deficit, wasn't there, between government spending and how much money we've got in the bank,
It was created by Rachel Reeves.
Well, so what, we didn't have any black hole before Rachel Reeves?
No, we didn't. Not to the extent she was talking.
Yeah, but that's a different thing, you know.
I mean, the Office of Budget Responsibility, let's not me or you decide what... Let's listen to the people who actually make the forecasts, and they said there's a few £billion of overspends. This is not a £22 billion black hole. That's complete nonsense. It was created by Rachel Reeves, signing off a deal with the unions at face value without any productivity improvements. I've never seen any government in recent decades do that. That's what she did. And then, of course, because of that tax spend doom loop she's in, and because of this constant speculation about what's ahead, businesses stopped investing, which means the economy stops growing. That's where we are. Business confidence has completely crashed under Rachel Reeves. So the things that actually generate the money for public spending have completely disappeared.
So it's all fine, no black hole at all when the Conservatives less power.
Listen, we've been through a difficult time. But let me tell you where we were July last year, July 2024, when they took over. Business confidence, according to the Institute of Directors, was +5. To date is -73. That's the steepest fall on record. It's the lowest recording on record. Actually, it's not the lowest. It was -74, which is last month. That's the lowest ever. That's what she's done to business confidence. It's business confidence and investment that drives growth in our economy.
Now, to finish, Throughout the programme today, we've been talking about dad jokes. So there is a reason for this, OK? Bear with us. There is a reason for this. Because some MPs are standing up in the Commons today and they're telling dad jokes. And the reason they're doing it is because they're trying to highlight the amount of paternity leave that dads get, which they say is the kind of biggest joke of all, if you like. So firstly, do you agree with them on paternity leave? Does it need to be improved?
Well, I've got 4 kids. You know, I supported my wife through having those 4 kids. I don't think I needed any more paternity leave. I was always keen to get back to work because you've got a job to put the most important thing for any dad is to have a job. And that's what puts the food on the table and puts a roof over the kids' heads. So I was quite happy with the amount of paternity leave I got, and I don't think the situation's changed since I had my last child 18 years ago.
Well, do you think that's true, though? Don't you think that most parents prefer, you know, in that critical first couple of years, more of equality about the time that both parents can take off?
Well, I think we had a quality time. My wife might disagree, but I think we had quality time.
How long did you take off?
A few days. A few days, that's all. But
I'm genuine. So you genuinely, you think that's enough?
I think what we've got now is right. I think what you do with this, you've got to look at both sides of the equation here. If you increase the amount of things like paternity leave, you're going to put more burdens on business, including small business. And of course, in Parliament, we can stand up and say, "Oh, I can be more compassionate than you. I think we should have more support for fathers going through this difficult time." What about the support for businesses? I'm from a business background, and 30 years in business. It is tough, particularly if you've got a small business. So when we're having these conversations about the different measures we provide for new parents, please give a thought to the small businesses who drive our economy forward every single day.
What's the best dad joke, then? You've got to have one. You've got 4 kids. You must have a good dad joke.
Well, my kids think I'm a joke. That's the reality.
The biggest joke of all.
Yeah, exactly.
Very nice. Thank you very much. Indeed, always good to have you on the programme.
Fair play as well. Respect there with the joke at the end. Still to come here on Mornings, we'll be speaking to women's rights campaigner Patsy Stevenson about a petition for women-only tube carriages. Welcome back. Let's get you up to speed with the top stories. European leaders have said today that any peace plan between Ukraine and Russia cannot be done without involvement from Ukraine and the EU, after reports that US and Russian leaders drafted a new plan to end the war without their involvement.
The Defence Secretary John Healey says the UK is exploring its military options if a Russian spy ship sails closer to UK shores. So for the second time this year, the Yantar is in British waters. It's currently off the coast of North Scotland, being closely monitored by the Royal Navy.
Parts of the UK could see up to 25 centimetres of snowfall today as blizzard conditions hit the UK. Amber weather warnings are in place for parts of Yorkshire, while coastal areas are being told to look out for snow and ice.
Now, public harassment on London's transport network is on the rise. Data shows that sexual offences, and of course these are only the ones that are reported as well, have risen by more than 10% across trains, buses and tubes in the capital. It's led to a petition to introduce women-only carriages on London's tube network, which now has 13,000 signatures. Well, let's bring in the women's rights campaigner, Patsy Stevenson, at this point, shall we? Patsy, good to speak to you. We've spoken to each other many times before. You obviously kind of shot to fame through the Sarah Everard protest and the way that, it wasn't a vigil, I should say, and the way that the police had that heavy-handed way of dealing with you at that peaceful vigil. I'm really interested to get your thoughts on these women-only tube carriages. Do you think that would be a step in the right direction?
Well, it's a shame, isn't it? It feels dystopian, for one. I know that other countries do that as well. And it to have so many signatures as well, I think it's strange that that's seen as a solution. For me, I think a solution would be combating the actual issue, which is men. If we're getting women-only carriages, do we then have trans-only carriages to protect trans people? Do we have Muslim-only carriages to protect Muslim people? Because right now, there's so much hate for a lot of people. There's a lot of hate crimes. There's a lot of violence going on in the UK. And I think actually the issue is men. So maybe we need a man-only carriage where we put them all in the back of the train and they can just stay there and harass each other.
Forgive me, can I just clarify? I mean, it's surely the issue is some men, a very small minority of men, not men.
That would be lovely if it was a small minority. Unfortunately, it's definitely not, as you can see from the amount of people that have signed the petition, for example. As a women's rights campaigner, I've spent my life fighting for women's rights. A lot of people do. The reason that we need to fight for women's rights is because not many people understand how it is perpetuated in society. Misogyny is rife within society. I've said this for 4 years on TV now. It's not just some men. It's almost all of them at this point, and we actually don't know who it is, because if we've got women reporting that, I think it's 98% of them now have reported being sexually harassed and assaulted, it's not by random monsters, it's not by ghosts, it's men every time.
But I mean, again, I think if people are unsafe on the tube, something must be done. And I agree with your point at the top. It should be tackled perhaps at cause, with more police or whatever it might be. But are you honestly saying that people's safety on tubes is so bad that we need women-only carriages, and that is precipitated by all men?
I think she's arguing against the women-only carriages.
No, I know, but this is what we're discussing here. I mean, is safety on tubes bad enough that something needs to be done, and is the cause all men? Surely it's not all men.
So the defensiveness that you're feeling now is great to see on TV, actually. So this defensiveness that a lot of men have, where they're like, well, it's not all of us, I'm a good guy, that sometimes hinders progression of women's rights, because you're not thinking, well, have I had this chat down the pub with the lads? Have I heard someone make a misogynistic comment? Do I know someone that's maybe had allegations against them and maybe stuck up for them? There's loads of things and loads of ways that men actually allow dangerous behaviour from other men. So you may not even be doing things yourself, but other men let other men get away with it. And that's where we've got a huge problem as well.
OK. I mean, I still don't know that that's making people unsafe on the tube. I mean, it seems like a big step to suggest that applies to all men, or 98% of men.
98%, we can say 98%, but it's not a small minority.
Correct. 98% would suggest the vast majority, which is, I guess, the gap between what I would suggest is reality and what you're suggesting.
Luckily, that's why you get me on, because I'm an expert. This is my field, so that's why I'm here to speak about it, because I know statistically that it's almost all men. These aren't like fake figures that are plucked from the air. Unfortunately, until people understand that this is a real situation, femicide is a real issue, and that women are dying weekly because of this issue, if you want to help stop that, then we need to understand that men have got the issue. Men are the issue. If people are trying to take themselves away from that and say, well, it's not me, I'd like to ask if you are attending protests to fight for women's rights, are you posting about things? Are you talking about this with your peers? Do you discuss women's rights? Do you discuss, we shouldn't talk about women in a derogatory way because we're objectifying them and that leads to violence? I hope that these are conversations that you're having, because if you're just saying, well, I'm a nice guy and I treat the women in my life nicely, unfortunately, you're part of the issue.
Yeah, but look, I'm not saying that. We talk about this every day on this programme, but I'm not even just saying I'm a nice guy. I think the vast majority of guys are nice guys. I think there's a lot that aren't. And I'm not suggesting otherwise, that there aren't problems.
It's an experience. So, my lived experience and the lived experience of a lot of women that I know, almost all women that I know, is that it is almost all men. So it's I appreciate that you're coming from your own experience of being a man. You maybe don't see the amount of harassment and derogatory comments and misogyny that women go through on a day-to-day basis. But it's there every single day. Women write books about it. I've got some books in the corner, that are all about my friends have written, because they're all fighting against misogyny. There's so many activists right now fighting against misogyny. And there's also a rhetoric going around that, that feminism is harmful to men, that we're lying about these statistics. It's quite dangerous rhetoric. And I think when we minimise the issue to, it's just some men, or it's just half of men, or when actually the reality of it is that it's most men, is quite harmful.
Patsy, thank you very much. Indeed, always good to have you on the programme. Thank you.
I mean, I think the starting point of that was, do men make women feel unsafe on tubes? It's not even misogyny or things more simple than that. And I think that to suggest all men, or 98% of men, make women feel unsafe on tubes, I don't know if there's evidence for that, personally.
To Gaza now, and Sky News has witnessed firsthand the devastation caused by months of relentless bombardment. Israel doesn't allow news organisations to report independently from Gaza, but yesterday it took a group of journalists, including Sky News, into the area of the Strip occupied by Israeli forces.
The brief visit was highly controlled and offered no access to Palestinians or other areas of Gaza. Military censorship laws in Israel mean that military personnel were showed the material before its publication. Sky News, though, maintained editorial control of the report at all times. Here's Adam Parsons.
Well, earlier this week, the United Nations agreed a resolution to back Donald Trump's 20-point peace plan for Gaza. And that plan was fueled by optimism for the future. But the problem is, reality bites when you come here and look at that. That is what's left of the outskirts of a place called Shujaiya near Gaza City. It is a landscape of complete and utter devastation. It's very hard to see a single building that hasn't either been destroyed or blown up. And there are no civilians, no signs of life here. The Israeli military has brought us to this base, but they tell us what we can film, where we can go. So, for instance, I can film that, but I can't film a military base over there. And the other thing is that we're not allowed to talk to any civilians. Now, they are only a few hundred meters in that direction. There is a large red and white mast over there in the distance. And that is the marker for the so-called yellow line, which now divides Gaza into two. We're on the side that is controlled by Israel. Over on that side, it is Hamas and other clans who are in control. But there's hardly anybody living on this side. It is predominantly the military. Most of Gaza's 2 million population, the vast majority, are on the other side. The stabilization force that was agreed to by the UN still has a very vague remit. And right now it's not clear whether or not they will go on to that far side where Hamas and other groups are still roaming. So this peace plan does bring optimism, but there are so many unanswered questions about the rebuilding of this, about the money that will be needed, about that stabilization force, and about Hamas. The deal says they have to disarm, but will they? And if they don't, who's going to make them?
Well, you can watch Adam's full report from Gaza throughout the day. Scan that QR code on the screen right now as well.
Coming up, we're going to be talking to Chris Millard, who is the managing director, which sounds very serious, of the group of England supporters that you might be familiar with, the Barmy Army.
Ahead of the Ashes, can't wait for this.
What might happen if Russia attacked the UK?
This is clearly an enormous show of force.
It is definitely out of the ordinary.
We ran a war game with former ministers back in the hot seat.
Ben Wallace.
Amber Rudd.
Jack Straw.
It's the kind of war game that's genuinely tested inside government.
The Russians are signalling that there may be an attack.
Russia knows our weaknesses, but do you? I'm Deborah Haynes. From Sky News and Tortoise, this is The War Game. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
You want to talk business? Meet me in the On-Board Lounge. Flying units, fly better. Thank you.
Ben Stokes has provided the rallying cry for England to do what it's failed to do for more than a decade and win the Ashes on Australian soil.
He's an iconic captain for England, I should say, and he called on his team to create history as the first test gets underway tomorrow in Perth. The time difference is pretty bruising for England fans here in the UK, but Chris Millard is part of the England faithful in Perth. Hoping for victory. He's the managing director of the Barmy Army, a group of England supporters known for their passionate support. Great to have you with us. What's the atmosphere like at the moment?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's really fever pitch here. You could cut the tension and the atmosphere with a knife. It's certainly something that I think there's thousands of people over here hugely excited for what's to come tomorrow. And we've got over 1,000 people attending our event where I am right now here tonight in 15 minutes time. So yeah, it's ready to go.
So some of the Australian stadiums for cricket are epic and huge. What sort of show do you expect England to have at the, you know, as Sophie said, it's a big time, it's an incredibly long way to go. Is there going to be tens of thousands of England fans?
Yeah, absolutely. We're expecting over 40,000 fans during the series. So on our travel program alone, there's 3,000 coming. So we've got lots of people travelling over. The bars, the restaurants, the hotels are all very pleased that we're going to be here for a long stay. And we're very excited to welcome all of our members, but also welcome anyone who wants to be involved with the Barmy Army and be a part of what we do supporting the England cricket team.
Yeah, talk to us about the Barmy Army, right? Because you guys have become slightly legendary. What kind of what are you all about? What tricks have you got up your sleeve?
Yeah, I think the Barmy Army is one of the most unique businesses in world sport. We've got over 55,000 members. We've got a couple of million social media followers that all came from the terraces when fans started singing together and being part of a community. We're a big community of cricket fans, and that's just grown and grown and grown. It's our 30th anniversary in Adelaide, so yeah, we're going to have some very special celebrations.
I was going to say when we booked this segment, I love that the Barmy Army is like a formal thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Maybe that sounds stupid, and it's got a managing director.
Yeah, I know.
It's almost all of that was so exciting, and then I was slightly disappointed when I thought about it that it's rather a corporate title. You should almost be like the chief general, the army. Yeah. You know. Anyway, it's a formal organisation that then obviously is probably very informal during the games and laid back.
It always surprises people how big the team is. We've got 23 full-time staff in the UK. On this tour alone, we've got over 50 staff. So it's it's a lot bigger than what people think. But you know what? It takes some organising. We've got 3,000 people coming out here. We've got 30,000 different T-shirts to sell during the tour, and thousands of people coming to our events. So someone's got to do the organising. I'm not the songwriter. I'm the organiser that helps everyone have a good time.
Can you talk to us about the cricket? Because England have struggled in Australia, right? And there's always quite some would say hostile atmosphere. I was looking at some of the Australian media coverage towards people like Joe Root, like Ben Stokes in particular. How difficult do you think it's going to be for the players out there?
It can be very hostile here. I think that they are very passionate about their team. There's a slightly different culture in Australia. It's a little bit more brash than what we're like in England, and the players are used to that have toured for a long time. But that's our role. Our role is getting behind the England team, giving them that support that they need off the field, because we know that things change very quickly in Australia. Whilst the press are coming at the England team right now, we know that if we get off to a good start, the tables will turn and they'll go at their own team. So the England players know that. They're very accustomed to it, that they know what they're in for, and it makes the excitement even more palpable.
And talk to us about the situation going in, because there's been lots of kind of injury rumours on both sides as well. Who do you think is going into the Ashes in a better position on paper?
I genuinely think it's England. I think we've got the most settled team. I mean, I always say this when England are playing, I get caught up in it all and get very excited. But I really think that England have got a really settled batting lineup, and also they've got the quicker bowlers now. So I'm very excited. I think that the big test is the Perth test, because they've got a weakened team with the injuries, and if we can't beat them at that first test, it might be a long tour. But there's a lot of excitement for both in the England camp and in the stands as well. So let's take them on.
Great stuff, Chris. Thanks so much. Have a great time. Cheer us home to victory, and thanks so much for joining us. We're probably the only people in the country that aren't 2 against the time difference.
Oh, yeah, exactly. We'll be up.
Yeah, we'll be up.
Exactly, it's all about getting up early, guys.
I've been in this position before. Basically, we'll come in bright and early to prep for the show and just watch the cricket.
Although it's 2:30 a.m, the first one, so that was a bit...
Well, we'll miss the first hour. We'll still get most of it.
It's pretty early, I have to say. True.
Anyway, if in our political interviews in the months ahead we start talking about cricket, it's because we've been watching rather than prepping. Now, we're going to do a return to a story we've been talking about all day, delightfully, dad jokes. MPs will be telling their own dad jokes in the Commons today, and it's to highlight their paternity leave concerns, which they then say is the worst dad joke of the lot. Ashna is here with a bit more of the colour on this story for us.
Yeah, this is quite a colourful story. It's different, isn't it? MPs having a laugh for once, Sophie, in the Commons. But it's for good reason. I mean, anyone with a young child in the UK and, you know, any fathers at home, yourself, Wilf, might well identify with this. It's only about 2 weeks you get for paternity leave if you're lucky enough to have a child. And it's 187 quid a week that people are trying to manage on. Compared, though, with other countries, the UK is ranked among the worst in terms of generosity in helping out fathers and parents alike. Among this kind of generosity ranking, if you like, out of 43 countries, the UK ranks the 40th among them all. But there are other countries like Sweden that do it so much better. I mean, people at home might have heard of latte papas, latte fathers. Essentially, it's this idea that men get paid to look after the children whilst the women go and, you know, earn a living in the workforce. In Sweden, you get 15 months leave to share among you.
Wow.
Which is extraordinary. You don't have to use all the days at once. You can use some of the days, a portion of it, up until the child turns 12.
Wow,
which is extraordinary. It is interesting.
It's interesting. We heard from Kevin Honenrake, the chair of the Conservative Party earlier, and I spoke to him about paternity leave, thinking he would be like, yeah, that sounds like he was like, no. I took a couple of days, and actually, we've got to think about the businesses here. It was quite interesting.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I think the really good point, though, Sophie, you were making as well with him, like the shared part of it is kind of the critical part, as opposed to his argument, perhaps, is if businesses are potentially having to cover both parents.
Yeah, it shouldn't just be the woman who always has to take it. We're not letting you get away with only talking about the serious stuff, though, Ashna. Any dad jokes you want to share with us?
OK, yeah. So what I'm really bad at is remembering the joke. I always remember the answer, but I have actually written the joke.
I love it.
What do you call a person with a briefcase in a tree?
Don't know.
What?
A branch manager.
Oh, that's good. I love it. Go on, keep going.
What did the tomato say to the other tomato during a race? Ketchup.
Oh, ketchup.
I like that very much.
That's good. That's very good.
You've had one sent in.
I've had one sent in by my dad. My actual dad has texted me
Good morning,
with his nice to know that you're watching. Here's my dad's joke. I went to the doctor today and he said, I've not seen you for a long time. I said, no, I've been ill. My dad, thanks very much, Dad.
I love that. So we've got more coming in from... Honestly, this has really got both the weather story and the dad jokes. So another one from the viewers. I keep trying to use beef as my password, but it's not stroganoff.
That's good. It's actually good.
This one came in from Stefan Robinson. He said, I have a horse, his name is Mayo, and sometimes mayonnaise.
Oh, that's so good.
From our own Rob Powell.
Oh, yeah, I've got Rob Powell.
I've got to get this up. This one is really good.
He was disappointed that we didn't talk to him about dad jokes earlier, so he's been...
He's texted to me, and his is, what do you call a cheese that isn't yours?
Nacho cheese.
There we go.
I knew that one.
Well, listen, I am going to tune in. What time is this debate in Parliament? Because it's going to be better than PMQs.
True. There is an urgent question, I think, that's happening today, so it's being pushed along slightly. Don't have exact timings, but sometime today.
But it's going to be classic.
Yeah.
I mean, just have to watch more cheap puns. In my book, high-level wit is what we're really talking about on this. Ashna, thank you very much for bringing up that story for us. Now, whilst we've got Ashna, we also just want to have a little bit of a recap of some of her great moments. Today, we've been talking a lot about the weather, of course, and the snow. And sadly, to break the news to our viewers, this is Ashna's last day on Sky News, which really we are so unbelievably
We're really sad about it. We love Ashna.
And we've got a little taste of some of Ashna's coverage of some tough weather conditions in light of the snowy conditions today.
Now that it's finally here, you can really feel the full force of it. Here we go. Bit of that. The stagecoach have cancelled a lot of their bus services, but big double-decker buses aren't going to be running. Oh, we're just going to turn there. So we're really getting battered by the wind.
Red, gold and purple. They will line that route as the car passes by. We also know that some of the Queens... Oh, do excuse me as we nearly blow over.
If I step out just behind this building, you can see what a difference it makes. I'm really fighting against it. Oh, and there you go.
What?
The hat's gone.
Oh,
What a trooper.
You're
What an
amazing.
absolute
You're
trooper.
I'm meant to be glamorous. You guys are
you
giving
look
away the
glamorous
secret.
somehow, despite the wind and the rain. You're always still absolutely giving it all.
And do you know what I was going to say as well? Like, I was reminded of this morning. We were chatting before one of the interviews we did today because it was on the sinking of the Bayesian. You've done this with every story, but that one sticks in my mind. You got on a plane, went to Italy, you led the coverage for all British broadcasters, not just for Sky, breaking all the developments. And you're a great, great loss, and we'll miss you. We'll miss you.
The other thing about Ashna as well, genuinely, is that the off-air people, all the production teams, everyone who works at Sky, no one has got a bad word to say about this woman because she is just a genuinely lovely person, and we're going to miss you a lot. But I don't know why, looking at that footage, why would you want to leave Sky? I mean, it looks like you were having to really
I love you all. Thank you. That's very naughty. That's naughty of you, but thank you.
Well, good luck. Good luck with the next move, and we'll stay in touch, I hope. And thanks as always for everything, Ashna. We are nearly out of time here, but coming up on Sky News today with Gareth, of course, more coverage of that top story, which is the growing spat between the Defence Secretary John Healey and the Russians. We'll see if there's any further developments on the other Russian part of the story, with those sort of leaked, rumoured talks between Russia and the US about Ukraine without them in the room.
Yeah, an awful lot going on in geopolitics as always, and of course we'll be keeping an eye, I'm sure, on those snow pictures across the UK as well. Hope you're wrapped up warm. Me and Wilf will see you next week, but lots more coming up on Sky after this.